The divine cult of the heavenly demon unites all masters of the demonic arts under the heavenly authority. Such is their destiny. Iron Sword noticed the girl. It looked like she was heading towards them. The withered robe recognized her. The commander of the squad of furious demons. The very one who had so bravely faced him in combat. But why does she need multiple blades? The withered mantle also noticed the blade of 7 knights. The meteor twins, the 7 knights blade, and the 4 nameless blades are the third young master's favorite weapons. As always, they're drawn into the embrace of danger. They'll just have to wait. So Ryan feels his attacks becoming more and more violent. For a moment, he simply disappeared. But the guy feels that he is behind, so he uses the technique of suppressing the steps of the demon lord. Jin Guanyan has delivered his crushing blow. Is this the end for Sodiang? His body simply disappeared before his eyes. The man couldn't understand how he had managed it. Demon Lord's overwhelming steps is the most famous movement technique in the heavenly demon cult. Looking at Jin Guangyang's movements, he hasn't even reached the 6th level of mastery. He failed to fully awaken the Demon Lord's overwhelming aura. But even so, he managed to master this technique. But he never received full recognition. But since they were both students of the same teacher, he decided to give him a hint. So Ryan delivered a powerful punch, but he managed to block it. Maybe now he'll understand? How dare this guy use the Demon Lord's overwhelming steps? He wouldn't lose to someone like him. Didn't the boss himself teach him the basics of this technique? Sodiang replied that Jin Guangyang had already lost, and he would definitely defeat him. Guan Pyong appeared, completely exhausted. He said it was too late to ask for forgiveness. How dare Sodiang fight for the position of heir, pushing him into the background? Jin Guangyang asked what had happened to him. He replied that he had simply dealt with those who stood in his way. Guan Pyong was referring to the cult followers and soldiers of the divine demonic army. Jin Guangyang called him an idiot. What was he thinking, killing cult followers in such a situation? He didn't want them to catch him, but it's precisely because of his actions that the situation will only get worse. A suspected traitor just killed cult followers. Does he think anyone will believe in his innocence now? Guangpyong believes they were both involved in this situation. He shouldn't say he planned to escape alone afterwards. So Ryan thought so. They were the ones who started all this fuss. Just like the real traitors. Jin Guangyang told Guanpyong to calm down. He was deliberately provoking them. He shouldn't give in. Sodiang said that Guangpyong couldn't control his own desires. It was because of the soul absorption technique. The cult leader said that ancient demonic mastery was poorly compatible with the absorption technique, but with a pathetic imitation like his, it was quite possible. Did he just call his dual-body union a pathetic imitation? Guangpyonu raged and promised to rip his jaws out. He wouldn't allow him to become the ruler's successor, so Ryan dodged and immediately punched him in the forehead. The boy was surprised he was able to resist, but suddenly Jin Guangyang intervened in their duel. But why did he attack Guanpyong? So Ryan said he was crazy. This was his ally. Jin Guangyang replied that he had no idea what he was talking about. The man was only trying to apprehend 2 criminals. He's about to lose his arm. He has only one option left. If he changes his technique, he'll immediately break it. However, that's still better than losing it completely. So Ryan used an explosive rock strike technique, sending the enemy flying. A guy can't just lose his arm. He's been through this before, and it didn't end well. Yu Young appeared, still unable to comprehend why swordmasters love to throw their weapons around so much. So Ryan was happy because the girl had brought him his blade. This radically changed his situation. How dare that bastard Jin Guangyang harm his people? The boy activated the technique of ghostly soaring to the sky. The wave was so strong that the man flew away to his forefathers. Yu Young asked the young master how he was feeling. He replied that he was holding up for now. Did he really kill him? The guy replied no. He'd be unconscious for a while, but he was still alive. Guanpyong screamed again in despair. Jin Guangyang called him an idiot and told him to buy them time so he could regain his strength. Guangpyong said there was no need for that. He respected him and trusted him completely. Jin Guangyang built his reputation as a victim and then stole a technique to reach the level of an invincible demon. And when he managed to achieve it, he became a monster. Because of the technique that Jin Guangyang taught him, he promised to help him rise to the level of an invincible demon too. And it's all his fault. So don't blame him for that. Guangpyong straightened his brother's shirt. Yu Young was shocked by Guangpyong's actions. How could he manage to help his brother like that? Looking at them like a madman. The guy declared that he would soon rip out his heart too. Meanwhile, the remaining heirs to the throne fought against the mercenaries who had taken Soryang's men hostage. Soyeon reported that Ma Dongpil's condition left much to be desired. Ju Soyeon told Jung Niang to hurry to the Blood Spirit Pavilion. She would remain here until the people from the Criminal Justice Court arrived. The young lady really hoped that Soryang would be okay, but her heart was filled with worry. Ju Soyeon said the little girl was smart for calling her and Ryan for help. However, she wouldn't want Yeomin to continue on this journey with them. That's all they can do for her. For some reason, the forest was silent. Now So Ryan understood what Sanren was talking about. This was a real monster, right before his eyes. Without the principle of yin and yang harmony, this technique can only cause harm. And this will continue until he fully masters Liu Li's great method. The second young master cast aside all his humanity and turned into a monster even worse than the Beast Palace Lord. Yu Ryung asked, "Did this madman just swallow the first young master's heart? His demonic energy is growing before their eyes. How will they deal with him?" The power of Soryang's blade simply dissipates before him. Something similar happened during the battle with the Beast Palace Lord. A dense protective barrier of chi surrounds him. At the same time, he continuously circulates his internal energy. Yu Ring couldn't understand whether he was so eager to get the position of heir to the throne that he was willing to go to all this length. It's hard to say with Ryanu, but there are many people who have lost their minds in their pursuit of power. Didn't So Ryan think he should be better prepared himself? He hardly wanted to repeat his older brother's fate. The boy agreed with her. Looking back, Yu Ryung said that the Divine Demon Army was already approaching. We need to get this sorted out quickly. Does So Ryan want to fight this madman one-on-one? They already have enough witnesses. So Ryung believes they need to finish what they started. Have Yu Ryung take him to the Blood Spirit Pavilion if he suddenly passes out. He doesn't have to worry. He's not going to die. This Kwan Pyong is a complete fool. Dependence on something like that will never help him get the position of the head of the cult, let alone reach the level of an invincible demon. This isn't the path of demonic mastery. So Soryang will figure it out. So Ryan launched his powerful blades into him and activated the soul's flight to the heavens. Meanwhile, Ma Dongpil woke up. Master Guagu said his wounds were serious and he should rest. Now he'll only be able to pick up his blade again in a couple of months, once his internal energy is fully restored. Dongpil asked how the others were. Master Gogu replied that they were fine. It was all thanks to him. Several mercenaries caught them off guard. Did anyone know who it was? The master said he'd tell them everything later. Right now, his safety comes first. Let Dongpil not forget to thank the seventh young lady. It was she who persuaded the fifth young mistress and the sixth young master to go looking for them. And to his surprise, they were able to find them much earlier than his people and the Divine Demon Army. Dongpil thanked the man for telling him. But he also inquired about the third young gentleman. He is currently in the dungeon of the Criminal Justice Hall. Martial arts that absorb another's soul and energy cause irreparable damage to their owner. The more often Gua Pyong used this technique, the more he lost his humanity and fell into madness. He can't master the technique he's chosen. His will isn't strong enough. Jin Guangyang is an evil and treacherous man, but there's no point in harboring anger at his actions now. Ultimately, he chose this path himself. That's why he finds himself in this situation. An exhausted Gua Pyong asked why he didn't just kill him, so Ryan replied that he would die anyway, even if it wasn't him who ended his life. Treason is an unforgivable crime. He will be executed in any case. The general strategist reported that discussions were still ongoing within the cult about what had happened, but he had managed to stop the main unrest. Soon people will completely forget about everything in 4 days, 10 at the most. The bishop said he had done a good job. Hoyo Sung also announced a ban on leaving the cult's premises in accordance with his orders. However, he believes they will suffer enormous losses. They have someone who will take full responsibility for what happened. Hadn't they met the third young gentleman yet? The man replied no. Hoyo Sung asked what the Lord intended to do with him. First, he needed to meet him and sort things out in person. If he manages to convince him, everything will remain as before. But if not, this will be his last breath. The guards reported that a third young gentleman had come to the bishop and requested a meeting with him. The bishop granted permission to enter. The chief strategist said he wouldn't interfere. Lee Jung-sun insisted he stay. Before them is the instigator of the most ambitious power struggle in the entire history of the cult. He must listen to him and decide whether they should throw him into prison. So Ryan said he was a little scared. The demon lord believed he had brought this fate upon himself. The young man clearly miscalculated when he decided to accuse his rivals of treason. So Liang replied that he was only wrong in that he had used the highest ranks for his own gain. Li Jongsun said it was true, and everyone in the cult became aware of his actions. Betrayal is a crime punishable by death. Knowing this, he exploited it in his struggle for power. And yet, he demonstrated that he wasn't strong enough to handle everything on his own. If he had been strong enough, he wouldn't have taken such a risk. And no matter how well So-ryang prepared for their meeting, let him be sure that it would not be easy to convince him. The guy took a piece of paper out of his pocket and said that he should look at this first. The demon lord asked what was written there. He replied that it was the confession of the second young master, Gwangpyeong. He was able to write it with his surviving hand. If you don't believe me, you can check and confirm that it is indeed his handwriting. Both of his brother's fighting skills were far superior to his own, and he knew he couldn't defeat them. It all happened at the exact moment when Jin Guanyang promised him to reach the level of an invincible demon and the place of the right hand of the cult leader. He also promised to train with him. However, not knowing when Li Jongsun's power would end, he suggested using a dual technique to overthrow him. As a result of their failure, Jin Guanyang died, and Quan Pyong was imprisoned for resisting the divine demon army. Since he has lost the right to fight for the place of his successor, he confesses to everything he has done and asks the ruler for forgiveness. Li Jongsun was surprised. So-ryang had memorized the entire contents. The boy replied that, of course he had, since he had dictated it to him himself. And how could he do it? So-ryang promised to protect him if he admitted that what he did was treason. However, adultery is an unforgivable crime. Regardless of the cause, the consequence is a death sentence. Despite this, the young man confessed. So Ryan isn't so stupid that he'd exploit his weaknesses. Did they somehow come to an agreement with him? The guy said that he would restore his sanity and tell him how to reach the highest realm of demons, and also that he will appoint him as the leader of the cult when he reaches the highest realm of demons. So Ryan suddenly stunned them with his statement. Had he managed to convince him that much? Did he really intend to appoint him? He may not be a very good guy, but he always keeps his promises. Lee Jung-sun said that this promise could only be fulfilled if Gwangpyeong did not die. So Ryang knelt down and begged the demon lord to let Gwangpyeong live. The maid called out to the young lady that she should return. Yeoman replied that she was going to dine with the third young master. The woman is certain that So-ryang doesn't want the young lady waiting for him here. But how could she know? Suddenly, a fifth young lady approached them and asked what they were doing there. Yeoman replied that she was waiting for So-ryang and planned to have dinner with him as soon as he was free. Ju So-yun realized that the Lord was speaking to him now. He was using betrayal as a weapon. She was sure that this time, Lee Jung-sung would not ignore it. Unless he has a good explanation, the guy won't walk out of those doors alive. Ju So-yun invited Yeoman to have lunch with her instead of waiting a long time. The little girl agreed. Lee Jung-sun asked if So-ryang knew about the prince's struggle. If one prince succeeds in becoming emperor, he kills the other brothers. After this, he kills all the subordinates who worked for the brothers. The boy asked if this was to prevent treason. He confirmed that it was. Those who seek power ponder when to draw their sword, and all this is simply for the sake of strengthening their hold on power. However, So-ryang tries to spare his battle brothers. But why the second one? He's a very competitive man after all. The guy replied that it was all because of his promise. But is that promise really that important? For him, promises were always important. How could he dream of becoming a successor if he couldn't even keep his word? That may make sense, but Lee Jung-sung thinks that So-ryang seems like the type of person who is willing to break promises. Promises are important, but his own benefit comes first. But this time, things were different. The man demanded an explanation. So Ryang wasn't so weak that he would break his promise just because he was a terrible guy and his rival. The demon lord asked if he really believed he was that strong. He doesn't believe that he is so weak that he can't handle a guy who is unable to resist temptation. That's why he's so confident in his ability to manipulate others. So Ryang responded that Gwangpyeong wanted attention. He said his dream was to become the most powerful man and spend the rest of his life in comfort, to be revered as a god by all who came to visit him. Lee Jung-sung believes that what he wants is So-ryang's position, but it is the exact opposite of what he does. What does the chief strategist think about this? This little fox turned a false accusation of treason into truth. The guy put the entire cult into a state of emergency with false information. It's not treason, but he thinks it's bad enough to deserve the death sentence. The biggest problem was that So-ryang made the accusation true and damaged the demon lord's authority. This event will be recorded in the cult's history books as a betrayal committed during his time in power. This wasn't even a spy sent by the Orthodox faction. This was a disciple he had trained himself. He will not be remembered as the ideal god for the next generation of demonic martial artists. So, Ryan clearly didn't take this into account. He must have done something wrong. He created quite a problem. Hoyo-san doesn't think the Demon Lord has any business making such judgments. Lee Jung-sun replied that he could not do anything if he was so worried about what future generations would think of him. So Ryan understands that these guys are playing with him right now. But at least this drink won't be his last. Lee Jung-sun said that he could not leave the traitor alive just because of the promise he made. The other one will die because he made him a traitor. To save him, Lee Jung-sung will have to declare his accusation false. Is that what the guy wants? So Ryan replied that that wasn't all. Then, in that case, the Lord would have no choice but to kill the second one. The guy replied that he'd have to consult the criminal law master then. Was So Ryan going to pressure him to spare the other man's life? When the boy first saw the owner of the criminal law court, his face was strange. It was then that he learned that there was a technique for changing appearance. Lee Jung-sun asked if he wanted to deceive the sect again using this technique. So Ryan didn't understand what he meant. But he never lied to him. He is a divine heavenly demon cult, and the divine heavenly demon is a demon lord, isn't he? If they know about this, then he's not completely deceiving the cult, is he? The Lord said it was nothing more than a play on words. Of course, but it's also true. He's the one who made it possible for him to say such things in the first place. Does he have any problems with his plan? He can't imagine what he's thinking. But if he doesn't have a problem with that, then let him do him one more favor. Lee Jung-sung asked why he had to do that, so Ryung didn't answer and asked if he could be a little rude just once. He has already made his decision, so he doesn't understand why he continues to look for reasons. Is he really that curious about his reaction? Or is this a way of commiserating with the fact that he's already been convinced? So Ryan didn't think he was that kind of person. He thought a man could do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. If he was interested in how Soryang would react, then he showed enough. That's his limit. Even if this conversation drags on, he will see nothing but the fact that the guy is irritated and upset. Lee Jung-sun asked if he wanted him to be straightforward. So-ryang said that was exactly it, because the man had always been that way. The general strategist never thought he would ever witness such a scene. If he thinks the Demon Lord has changed, it might be his fault. The guy is completely different. He was different. At least from the demonic martial artists he had seen in the sect. A student depends greatly on the actions of their master. Sometimes just a few words from the master can determine the course of the student's life. However, he had just discovered that the opposite could also happen. So Ryan had influenced him. His behavior, his speech, everything he had done so far aroused his interest. It was easy to get him to react, and it still is. Perhaps he finds joy in their uniqueness. Lee Jung-sun realizes that he is clouding the conversation with unnecessary words, even though this is what he used to hate the most. He will give the order that the first disciple, Jin Kwan-yong, and the second disciple, Kwan Pyong, will be executed as traitors. This order will not change, but the rest will be left to him and the owner of the criminal law hall. If Soryang is willing to do him this favor, then, as always, he will not interfere. But if he refuses, then the traitor Kwang Pyong will die. Let him sort it all out and come back to him with him. And the third is the only time he will allow himself to be convinced. So Ryang said he shouldn't be so sure. If he did something wrong again, he'd still try to convince him otherwise. If he wants, he can try. With these words, he simply disappeared from his sight. So Ryan was sweating like a hunted animal. He'd barely managed to survive. He's really been upping the pressure lately. Still, he's glad Lee Jung-sung sees him in a positive light. He is not the type to destroy another simply out of pride, but he also will not mask his anger with a smile in response to unpleasant behavior. So Ryan feels that his middle dantian is trembling slightly, and this is not good. Lee Jung-sun said that he did not know whether they were truly striving for the divine realm, but those who had not fully immersed themselves in desires and the 7 emotions could not shed their human shell. He must be angry, laugh, and grieve. Only the one who fully accepts all emotions can be considered a completely wonderful person. Focusing on the middle dantian does not mean being absorbed by emotions. It means being honest with them. There is no need to confuse these two concepts, but in any case, it is so empty here. Jin Kwang-young is dead, and Kwang Pyong's case is successfully resolved. He has defeated his rivals and finally won the struggle for the throne. So why was his head so unsettled? He thought he'd be happier than he was now. Maybe he needed a drink? Master Gogu greeted the third young master. So Ryang hadn't expected to see him here. The guy was just about to visit him, but they met again by chance. The master noticed that they didn't have a close personal relationship, so he'd come to him without a reason. It was probably related to some official matter. So Ryang explained that it was a personal request aimed at resolving official matters. In that case, they can go, but Soryang is responsible for the drinks. Is Anhwa bringing so much food again? Won't the doctors at the Blood Moon Pavilion be able to handle it? The girl replied that it was because she knew how to cook simple meals. Thanks to Sir Mahui, they are safe. They must do everything possible to help them recover as quickly as possible. Yo Sunrin thinks the people in this house are quite remarkable. The way they interact so naturally, almost like family. Anhwa said that the third young master takes good care of them. He is a very kind and warm-hearted person. Yo Sunrin decided to help her. Let her rest for now. Anhwa said it wasn't necessary. She could handle it. This is delicious. Third young master, even in martial arts alone, he's considered the greatest talent in the palace. But he sees force as one of the ways to solve problems, not relying on it alone. There's one unique weapon that only the third young master possesses. His insight. Jin Guangyang was the grand prince of the divine sect. If they were on the same level, the fight would have favored Jin Guangyang. And yet, So Ryan turned him into an infinitely difficult opponent, a traitor, and dealt with him completely. Insight, courage, martial arts, and the ability to create the right atmosphere. Although his skills are still a bit crude, he's already at the top of the palace. If such a person had the right strategist, then conquering the world would not be impossible. He's allied with someone very dangerous. But once they've allied with him, they must ensure that the relationship doesn't become dangerous. Yo Sanrin, thinking about the third young master, completely forgot about the rice cake. Anhwa shouted that it was almost burnt. So Ryan asked if there was such a tavern in the eastern part of the fortress. Master Gogu replied that almost no one comes here. The owner isn't even a member of the main sect. The Huanghe Pavilion isn't under his jurisdiction either. Everything's falling apart here. How is she even still operating? The man said he finances it himself. He has some connections with the owner, so he personally supports him. So Ryan asked if he could spend a little more money. It looked like he'd fall apart in one hit. Master Gogu greeted Old Man Kong. The man didn't immediately recognize who stood before him. If it was him, he could have just shaken him instead of shouting. Master Gogu said he didn't shout. So Ryan stood to the side, confused. The old man said his guest was a rude child. If he were 10 years younger, he would teach him some manners. Master Gogu said they'd sit outside. Just bring him the usual. But Kong replied that he'd already eaten all the usual things. Did the brat have any money? Don't worry, this gentleman will sort everything out. And who is it? The old man asked. Master Guogu replied that the boy was the third young master of their sect. Who? After all, there's more than one young master. He's also the sect leader's disciple. Old Kang's mouth dropped open as he realized who stood before him. That same student of Li Changsan's? The third young master? This will take some time, so feel free to explore the tavern or start a fight. Just don't break anything. Young men have nothing better to do in their time. They should be charming ladies and going flower picking, not coming here to drink. Isn't it enough for them there? Living under such stress, it's no wonder they can't work normally. So Ryan asked what was wrong with this old man. Master Gogu replied that he was the boss here. The boy seemed untrained in martial arts, but his courage was unmatched. Old Man Kang is just that kind of guy. So Ryan is surprised that Master Gogu tolerates his sharp tongue. But the guy didn't seem surprised, so Ryang replied that he was very surprised. It was rare to meet an old man like him in their sect. But Master Guogo said that wasn't what he meant. The boy didn't mind the decrepit old man using harsh words, since it was his first time meeting him. Well, it's unpleasant, but Soryang doesn't see the need to react to every word. It seems Master Guogu has his own share of worries besides himself. The man said sure, someone recently did something outrageous, and it's giving him a headache. He was still in a good mood, so Ryan was surprised. What a tough guy he was. Master Gogu said that he envied the third young master. But he doesn't mean to say that he envies his reckless nature, does he? Gogu replied that he was envious of that too, so Ryang said he was more vile than he thought. But is that really a problem? The guy replied that not really, but it didn't really suit him. He's an ordinary person. When he sees the sect leader's disciples, he often wishes he could take their place. Guogu was worried when the branch's performance declined, and delighted when he received high marks in quarterly assessments. He is just an ordinary, run-of-the-mill person. He has no uniqueness whatsoever. So-ryang believes the sect leader appointed him head of the criminal law department because he recognized his abilities. And he's good at his job, right? It's not because his abilities are unusual compared to others. He's just good at hiding himself. Does the guy know what he envies most? No matter how hard he tries and fights for his goals, he could never reach So-ryang's level, which is why the sect leader abandoned him. Does he know what position he held before becoming head of the criminal law department? But how would he know that? Master Gogu was the first disciple of the heavenly demon Lee Jong-san. The former heavenly demon's first disciple and a genius, considered capable of leading the Kangcha sect. A natural martial talent with exceptional insight, he was chosen as the next candidate for the heavenly demons and bestowed with the techniques of the demon emperor's domination, even before reaching adulthood. The former grand prince of the heavenly demon sect. That's who Master Guogu was. But why did the sect leader abandon him? Why did he bury his past? It's because of his background. Specifically, because he's not from a martial arts background. What does he mean? This sword's name is Chan, a righteous sword. Its master personally placed it in his hands. Although his childhood memories are hazy now, that moment is still vividly expressed. That sword, given into his small hands with a warm smile, completely captures its owner's heart. The man seemed to be the kind of person who could smile warmly at his young student. He remembers those words clearly. Guogu was supposed to pierce the heavenly demon's heart with this sword and prove that the spirit of righteousness still lived. Buried in the reign of the then leader of the alliance, a position that no longer existed, deputy leader of the righteous heavenly alliance. Chunzan Baeksun is the white sage of Mount Chun. Kihyun was his teacher. The guy guessed correctly. Guogu was a spy sent by the righteous heavenly alliance to assassinate the sect leader. Later, he realized he was just a tool to him. If Kihyun had truly cared about his student, he wouldn't have sent the mustacheless boy to the demonic hall. But even that master did not expect that he would become a disciple of a heavenly demon. Although his words were grand, in reality, he wanted Guogu to become a warrior cultist and gather minor information. So Ryan said he's no slouch himself. So does that mean Gogu is upset with his master? The man cast aside all resentment against him when he became the cult leader's apprentice. Although the circumstances weren't ideal, he served two masters. So Ryang understands that Gogu has lived a hard life, but she doesn't know how he became the cult leader's disciple and head of the legal arts department. What he's really interested in is why he's telling this to the third young master. Regardless of the process, the third young master is the closest to becoming the successor. Once chosen, he'll still learn everything about it. If he finds out anyway, was it worth telling him now? And even bringing him to this private tavern for that? Given his relationship with the third young master, there was no need to bring him to his favorite tavern and rave about the past. He simply wanted to confirm a few things about him. Master Guogua thought they looked alike. Perhaps he was a spy sent by the heavenly alliance of the righteous. Of course, he had neither proof nor serious suspicions. He simply caught a familiar scent. However, it seems his intuition was wrong. As So Ryan expected, Master Gogu had good intuition. Old Man Kang walked towards the boys with a dish in his hands, muttering some nonsense under his breath. The taste may not be very pleasant, but let them eat it. Even it is salty. Master Gogu asked the old man what he thought of the guy. Kang looked at So-ryang and replied that he did not have the typical smell that was characteristic of the Orthodox sect. This bitter smell. It is definitely a demonic creature, but the bitterness is not that strong. He's demonic, but a little unique. Judging by his face, the guy's already caused quite a bit of trouble. So Ryan asked what was going on here. The old man called him an idiot and said that this tough guy had brought him here to test whether he was a righteous spy for the Heavenly Alliance or not. Didn't anyone tell him who he was? Master Gogu replied that they hadn't. So Ryan had a hard time understanding this guy. Who is this old man? Maybe someone can explain? As he left, he said that since they hadn't told him who he was, there must have been a good reason. So he wouldn't tell anyone either. So Ryang asked if the cult leader knew about this funny old man. Gogu replied that there was nothing he didn't know about the cult. So Guogua brought him here to test whether the boy was as righteous a spy for the Heavenly Alliance as he was? That's true, but that's not the only reason. Guogu just wanted to chat about various things with the third young master. It's a great honor for him, but there's doubt that talking to a tense person like him will improve his mood. The guy was right, but now he regrets it. Then they need to get a drink quickly to relieve the stress. So Ryang has a request. He should choose one of the prisoners in the dungeon and swap them with Kwang Pyong. He can use the bone shift technique for this. Master Gogu asked if the cult leader had given permission. He replied that if he hadn't, the boy wouldn't have asked him at all. Even if he hadn't, So-ryang would have been the type to stir up trouble first, right? It's hard to get close to that guy. Master Gogu agreed, but he had a request of his own. Well, the deals make his life easier. What does he want? Let him help him whenever he asks over the next year. Won't that be too difficult? So Ryan agreed, and Master Gogu thanked the boy. He replied that it was just a deal. The master rose from his seat and said that since they were talking about it, she should argue with him. Maybe after eating, everything gets cold. So Ryan also stood up and began to undress. They could have a duel. A spy sent by the righteous heavenly union. That's why So-ryang felt an inexplicable kinship with him? Master Gogu asked if he was ready. The sky was clear, and since they were already here, the boy would argue with him, drink an invigorating drink, and then fall asleep like a log. His shoulder was a little stiff. The criminal law master doesn't know the meaning of moderation. Yo Sanrin saw that the master had woken up. He had slept for 3 days after his visit to the cult leader. She thought he had died. So Ryan asked, "Where is Anha? Did something happen? Why is she sweeping the yard?" Yo Sanrin replied that she was currently preparing medicine for Lord Maho, so let him indulge himself in a little hunger. It's good that overcoming difficulties together strengthened their bond. The girl said that not at all. She is not an expert in kidnappings. Donpil tried to stand up to greet his young master, so Ryang told him not to get up. He'd been working hard. Dongpil believes it was his inadequacy that got him into trouble. If anyone should apologize, it's him. It's all his fault that everything turned out this way. This wasn't a battle Donpil should have been drawn into. Ultimately, it was his incompetence. So Ryan will make sure this doesn't happen again. Donpil said they needed to talk alone. Okay, he'll help him up. The man overheard the doctor's conversation. Did So-ryang save the second young master? He replied that he had. Let them be careful. Those who attacked them then were full of devotion. But looking back, he doesn't think it was purely out of loyalty. He's sorry to say it, but it seems there are people who hold a grudge against him. It feels like they're not being ordered around by the first and second young masters, but rather are being influenced by them. If they don't capture them all, they can go to the second young master again. At that time, all the attackers were imprisoned. Can Donpil find out how many there were? So Ryan replied that there were 7 of them, and those who attacked Dongpil numbered 25. 15 of them died by his sword. That leaves 3 people left. The ones who attacked them are still there. So Ryan said he's investigating the case himself. Those who harbor a grudge against him must have an old feud. It's a past Chana Jin doesn't know about. What was So Ryan doing before that he brought so many enemies upon himself? So Yunshim asked if he needed a list of all the items sent to the first and second young master's residences. So Ryang said it was all correct. For Jin Guanyong, it was from the moment he emerged from seclusion until now. And for Guanpyong, it was over the past 3 years. Could she find out the reason? If the guy reveals this reason, he won't be able to treat her the same way. He'll either see her as a friend or an enemy. Will she cope with that? If they became allies, they would become even closer, which meant she would have to switch to the young master's side from now on. So Ryang replied that was correct. But what if they become enemies? The guy replied that she would have to resign as the head of the educational agency. The girl believes that the fate of the Hall of Joy depends on this application. In this case, she will not ask for a reason and will not fulfill the request. So Ryan asked if she meant that the Hall of Joy would become his enemy. The Center for Religious Education is one of those organizations that maintains neutrality. This is precisely why she does not want to provide him with all the information he requested. The guy himself should understand that asking her for something like this is somewhat inappropriate. So Youngshim is well known for doing reckless things at times, but he is always kind to those he cares about, so he might as well not ask again. She won't be able to fulfill his request anyway. Apparently, it wasn't easy to win over such a principled person, although he already knew not to underestimate her. Suddenly, a female voice behind the door asked if she could come in. So Yunshim granted the young lady permission. The girl greeted the Master of Inner Enlightenment and the third young master. So Ryang was surprised that So Yunshim had called for Overseer Juwa. How could that be understood? So Yunshim replied that he could understand it however he wanted. She had nothing to hide. The girl will become the next master of the Religious Education Center after her. She believes that he has no objections to this. The girl stood up. and said she wasn't going to listen to him anymore. She had to leave. She would close her eyes and ears. As she was leaving, So-young Shim told the girl that she forbade her to promise the third young master to fulfill his requests. Although she can do it, she better think about it before doing so. Let it be a gift. This is the last thing she does for him. So Ryan said that when such conversations start in his presence, it is difficult to continue pretending. Even a nine-tailed fox would envy her cunning. Where did she come from? On his own head? The man said that he had lived in this world for more than 70 years, but had seen little. She, madam, is a completely different matter. She travels the world at such a young age. Yosanrin said that he was too kind, and in life he probably had no time for traveling. Then he met her, and immediately regretted the years he'd lived. If he'd married earlier, he could have had a woman as beautiful as her. The girl smiled and replied that it was never too late. He didn't have to make fun of her. He was well over 70. Suddenly, So Ryan appeared from behind and asked if the man was looking for someone. The man had long since sensed his arrival. Even his simple steps were filled with martial arts energy. He greeted the third young gentleman. The guy asked who he was. He's an ordinary old man, living a peaceful life and playing chess. He doesn't even remember his own name. The cult's followers call him Goru, and he might call him that too. Isn't Goru a heavenly demon by any chance? The man replied that heavenly demon sounded too loud. But he was right. That was his name. So Ryan greeted the man. It was an honor to meet him. Goru replied that these were two grandiose words. He appreciated the respect, but still didn't deserve such recognition. But isn't he one of the cult's greatest heroes, etched in its history? His words make him a little uneasy. So Ryan apologized. He probably should have bowed much lower. The guy introduced himself as So-ryang, not the third young master. Apparently, the guy isn't known for his status. The old man apologized. He should have announced his visit, but instead showed up uninvited. So-ryang said such guests were always welcome. The young man asked if Master Gora liked to drink. He seemed to have a good understanding of the old man's tastes. He said he wouldn't refuse a good drink. Meanwhile, the commander of the squad of furious demons was conducting her next training session. The sky demon, a steel blade, watched her. The man said her strike was impressive. Yu Yang asked when he found out she was training here. The man replied that he had just found out. But what is he doing here? Does he have some personal business with her? Steelblade replied that was exactly it, but she hadn't done anything to be scolded for. He replied that that wasn't why he had come here. Whether he is the head of a detachment or a simple groom, he has no right to interfere in the choice of their path in life. But she lives, wasting her life. Does the girl remember their first meeting? 10 years ago, she was in the rookie squad. He showed her the flow of her life energy. She had such an interesting reaction. She spoke to him as if he were a friend. And all this happened in full view of everyone. And that's not all. She also raised a fuss about any injustice during training. Even seniors are expected to treat their subordinates with the utmost respect. If he hadn't intervened, she would have been executed long ago for not following the rules of communication with teachers. Yu Rung is truly happy to see him again after such a long time, but she's very busy. She's even cut back on sleep to train. Let him tell her why he came. The man drew his sword and sent a wave of energy at her. Yudyung asked, "What is it?" These are the 10 forms of the Dragon Blade, a sword art technique encompassing both ancient and modern techniques created from his own vision. The girl realized that this technique was not similar to her two-handed sword, a ghostly beast. The man replied that of course, after all, it was she who stole his equipment. Yuryung shouted that she hadn't stolen anything. She had come up with this technique herself. It's true, she actually created it herself. But the girl never would have been able to do so if he hadn't pointed her in the right direction for her life energy. Yu Rung realized, without even realizing it, that she had adopted his technique. But what did he want from her? Maybe she should reach out to him? If he told her to hold out, would she agree? The girl replied that if it wasn't her own choice, they both knew the outcome. Does that mean she refuses? Nothing surprising from the brazen Yu Liang. Does he think cutting off her arm will make her cower in a corner and shut up? He won't wait. Even if she loses her arm, she'll at least have time to rip out his eyes. The man doesn't even know how it happened that he got involved with such a girl. As someone called a heavenly demon, he has no right to throw around such words. But their fate is truly astonishing. Will she still remain the commander of the squad of furious demons, or join him and become his apprentice? Let her decide. The choice is hers. To respond to a kidnapping with a counter-kidnapping, and to take not just anyone, but the disciples of the Beast Palace's lord? What an amazing man he is. So Ryan replied that it was all his carelessness that was to blame. Looking back now, he realizes the risk had been enormous. If they had responded in kind, those they had captured wouldn't have gotten off easy. Goru replied that this was precisely why he was different from the others. If they could easily determine a successful outcome, life would be much simpler. They'd been chatting for too long. The moon was already in all its glory. He thought he'd have a little chat with him, but human interest is boundless. Having shared the wine, he wanted to share the rest. So Ryan said he understood perfectly. The wine was giving them a second wind, and they could move on to another location. He's full of such politeness. The boy didn't understand at all what the old man meant. So Ryan pulled out his sword and suggested that after some delicious wine, they could practice a little. Goru said he was fine with that. The glorious times of duels with peers and other successors were truly useful. The cult's true strength lies in the 9 heavenly demons led by their leader, Lee Jung-san. He had imagined meeting the heavenly demon many times, and now, finally, it happened. He had reached the required level to fight the 9 heavenly demons. Without thinking twice, So Ryan decided to attack first. Goru stood there, unmoving. The guy was sure he'd wounded him. But something went wrong. Just one strike from his fighting fist sent So Ryan kissing the wall. He realized the old man was in good shape. He reminded Goru that he had already told him not to be so polite. Yu Ryung thanked him for the opportunity, but she didn't even know what to answer him. Can she become his student but still remain the commander of a squad of furious demons? She had made a promise to the 3rd young master after all. The man was surprised. What had she promised? Yu Young replied that she had become his subordinate, and he, in turn, had given him quite a bit. Admittedly, she was quite shameless because she took everything they gave her. And what's more, the time spent under the control of the 3rd is full of interesting events. She means she wishes to remain the squad leader and assist the 3rd young master? That's right, she's given her word. In that case, they need to go to the 3rd young gentleman. The girl didn't understand why this was necessary, so Ryan was impressed by Goru's skill. Someone of his caliber really does exist, and although it doesn't move as fast, it still parries each of his attacks. His vision is at its peak. He calmly predicts the movements of his blade. The guy decided to use the Demon Lord Steps technique, but Old Man Goru responded by using his technique of imprinting a dried tree. So Ryan couldn't figure out what kind of martial art this was. He was getting drawn in. The old man had incredible strength. He needed to avoid the attack. This doesn't look like air technology at all. What could this be, the guy thought. Using demonic energy, he compresses the air, thereby creating a terrifying suction force. Master Goru thought that he would fight to the last, but he was wrong. Although his actions are aggressive, he is still ready to retreat when the forces become unequal. He's not a tenacious fighter, but a prudent strategist, willing to do anything to win. His technique is more like that of a soldier than a warrior, so Ryan swung his sword and activated the dried flower puppet sword art technique. But Master Goru successfully repelled his blow with a blast of frosty wind. However, the man understood that this was clearly not all he had in his arsenal, so Ryan rushed forward and activated the demonic chains technique. He threw the blade, and the man was shocked by the action. A swordsman throwing his own weapon? This means that this daring lunge was only a distraction, and he hid the real blade for the attack. The impact was so strong that the walls of the fence and the ground beneath their feet could not withstand it. Lightning Fist. If the old man had been even a little clumsy, he would have taken heavy damage from the shockwave below his stomach. Steelblade and Yu Ryong decided to join their party. The man apologized for opening the gates without warning. If the students at the training ground saw them, it would cause another commotion within the clan walls. So Ryan said that he had ruined his mood. Master Goru agreed. The boy thought Master Goru's strength was magnificent. He seemed to have broken his wrist. He replied that before that, his lower body had suffered a tremendous shock. So Ryan said he was exaggerating. The man replied that he had lost count of how many times he could have died. The guy actually planned to kill him. And he, in turn, didn't even show his full potential. Master Goru does not want to be labeled a traitor later. Steelblade greeted the 3rd young master. So Ryan also said hello. What brought him to him? And in the company of this trouble-seeker, it was because of her that he came to him. There was something he would like to discuss with. Master Goru suggested changing location. It wouldn't hurt for them to heal their wounds. Drinking here isn't the best option for them. So Ryan suggested going to the tavern. The food there is quite good. The girls came out with brooms. They would have to clean all this up. Yosanrin was surprised. Why only them? Old Man Kang wasn't expecting any visitors today. How dare Soryang bring heavenly demons to him? He should have warned them he was bringing such guests. And why did he even show up here? So Ryan explained that his food was simply delicious. Why spit? Steelfang declared that he wanted Yu Ryong to become his disciple. However, he heard that the girl had made a deal with the third young master and was obliged to serve him. The fact that he calls him master is a bit of an exaggeration, but he still reads it as his comrade. The man understands that he values this girl, but does not think that he is connected only by affection for each other. If she hadn't become the commander of the squad of furious demons, would the guy have appropriated them for himself? So Ryan replied that this hadn't happened. But that didn't matter anymore. He'd already gained an advantage in the battle for the successor's seat, and even if he needed the squad's strength, he wouldn't have to ask for it. Doesn't the decision depend on their lord? This statement made Steelfang pause. In any case, it would be better for him if she joined the Steel Blade and became stronger. The man said his name was V. Chang. So Ryan asked, does he have the same last name as the Demon Lord? The man replied that he had a very curious connection with that boy. But since he's a heavenly demon, how should he best address him? Maybe call him Old Man Steelblade? Neither a hero nor a celestial demon, but simply an old man? Just like the celestial demons of that time, these characters are quite eccentric. In any case, as a heavenly demon and a retired man, he had to visit him. If a man really thinks so, then he should thank him. So Ryang asked him to take care of Yu Ryang. She might be a troublemaker, but she's a good person. No need to worry. Once she becomes his apprentice, he won't let her dull her sword. A young man came in to ask for forgiveness first. He needed a third young gentleman. He is here to deliver an urgent message from the caretaker of the Religious Education Center. He was asked to give this letter to the young gentleman. She is waiting for an answer. Opening it, Soryang realized that, as he thought, there was still a chance. Yuva came across a Pasun shrine and decided to explore it. Such a dilapidated shrine wouldn't have attracted attention. It housed a storage facility where everything necessary for the first and second masters was stored. But who could have done something like this to the Pasun statue? What happened here? Previously, there was a sanctuary here for low-ranking ministers and the most ordinary followers of the cult. So Ryang asked, wasn't she the one who said that a suspicious item sent to Jin Guangyang and Guanpyeong's domain was found here? Yuva replied that it was a dagger. What was so suspicious about it? Jin Guangyang and the late criminal Guangyang never used daggers. And considering their fighting techniques, which their subordinates were trained in, there is no reason to believe that any of them could actually have used the dagger. In fact, there are not many martial artists in the world who use daggers as a second weapon. If they ordered them to practice their skills, it wouldn't be so suspicious. Even if they trained in the use of daggers, ordering boxes of hundreds of them every month would still be too much. This is clearly too much, but where are they all now? That's the problem. They tried to track down where all the daggers had gone, but even a religious education center has its limits. Master Goru believes that the demons who targeted the third young master were secretly supplying goods to the first and second to maintain the struggle for the succession. And apparently this dilapidated sanctuary was the point of transfer of those very blades. If they hadn't known what had happened, they wouldn't have interfered. But now, having the title of heavenly demons, they can't just turn a blind eye to all of this. So Ryan thanked the men. Then both heavenly demons know what to do. He had found unexpected allies. He has one more request for the caretaker. The fifth lady is Ju So-yoon. The sixth gentleman is Jeon Ri-yang. And the seventh young lady is Chae Yo-min. Let him closely monitor them to see if any suspicious items are being sent into their possession. The girl made it clear that this was a difficult task for her. But still, So-ryang wants her to understand why he is asking her to take care of this issue, rather than doing anything himself. The Center for Religious Education maintains neutrality and does not take sides. But at the same time, it desperately seeks to gain the favor of the cult leader. He assigns this task to her because if she becomes the next head of the cult, she will be in great debt to the center. Yuva agreed. She would look into the matter immediately and contact him later. She should return to her domain. And let these three not inform the Lord of anything. He will contact each of them individually. If everything goes as planned, they will be able to begin operations in just 2 days. Guogu asked, are there any ill-wishers targeting the third young master? He just wants to protect himself and move slowly towards his goal, but he's afraid that it won't be that easy. Master Gogu decided to ask the guy what he was dreaming about. So Ryan has said many times that he dreams of destroying the righteous Heavenly Alliance. Why is he so surprised? Does he still serve the Alliance? Of course not. But if war breaks out with the alliance, he'll be the one who chooses to fight on the front lines. So what would the guy do with those who targeted him? So Riang replied that there was no need to think about it. He'll find and destroy them all. Well, what else can we do with them? The guy suggested they take a little walk. Master Gogu believes that the boy shouldn't act as recklessly as he did before. But why? Because he is the main candidate for the place of the new head of the cult. He himself said that, once he became leader, he would crush the righteous Celestial Alliance. These actions would draw the entire cult into war. Does the guy really want to resolve things this way? His noble death will serve as his aid in destroying the righteous Celestial Alliance. If the main goal is to crush the Alliance, and not to become the new head, then he has nothing more to say. Whatever the reason, the words of the ruler are an order that does not tolerate objections. But if he is not alien to the fate and reputation of their cult, then he would advise thinking everything through carefully. Everyone puts their own interests first, and rightly so. However, all decisions made as the leader of a particular organization must be carefully considered. It's hard to disagree with Ryanu, but until now, he'd never really thought about it. The guy said he would think about it, but he had never looked at the problem from that angle. In other words, you don't need to be a perfect manager. You just need to maintain your dignity, right? He thanked him for the advice. Master Gogu expected the boy to argue. He certainly didn't expect such an answer. That's the end of their conversation. He needs to go. He'll contact him later. His actions are unpredictable, but he monitors the situation carefully. This guy is noticeably changing. The man said that someone was in the storage room and told him to report everything to the master. Dark Heavenly Demon, Mok Wu. 2 generations ago, he was the lord of the divine heavenly cult, known as the Dark Heavenly Demon, a great martial artist. However, Mok Wu was overthrown and expelled from the cult. The reason for this was his desire to become the most powerful path to developing great martial techniques. In an attempt to achieve what he wanted, he resorted to using the forbidden technique of blood absorption. This technique is one of the most dangerous and demonic martial arts, causing internal damage to the upper and central dantian in 9 out of 10 cases. However, its use grants incredible power. As a result, followers began to fear that Mo Wu would become a maddened demon and plunge the cult into chaos. He was forced to be imprisoned, his powers were sealed, and he was subsequently exiled from the cult. So the cult had another problem. The exiled Mok Wu founded a clan and fathered many children, and decades later, his heirs became followers of the cult. In his past life, So Ryan managed to find out that the members of the Mok clan, who were followers of the cult, were the very same heirs of Mok Wu. In his desire to obtain Mok Wu's technique, So Ryang not only persecuted his descendants, but also subjected them to horrific torture without hesitation. He kidnapped members of their families, demanding that they hand over the basics of the technique to him, and ultimately destroyed their entire family. The current So Ryan couldn't believe it when he read all this. Did he really do all this? He slaughtered the entire Mok clan just to get his hands on his technique. Even he would have lost his mind over that. Strategist Ho Yo-sung said that after his coma, he really did lose some of his memories. Does he really not remember anything? He doesn't remember because he didn't do it. In 3 days, the second young master is to be executed. So Ryan asked if he could postpone the execution date. The strategist replied that it wouldn't be difficult. He's already made arrangements with the head of the Criminal Justice Department. They'll replace Kwang Pyong with a death row inmate, using shape-shifting techniques. Ho Yo-sung said he was aware of their plan. As soon as the execution took place, rumors will spread throughout the cult that the head of the criminal law hall was the Lord's first student. The guy asked him to take care of it. The strategist froze in place. So Ryang wants him to be the one spreading these rumors throughout the cult. He can understand the reason why they are so angry with him. At such a young age, blinded by the desire to gain power, he slaughtered an entire clan, not sparing even children much younger than himself, not to mention women and men. He was not just a madman. He was like a disaster that had risen from the very depths of hell. And since this body now belongs to him, it is up to him to deal with all his sins. He'd be lying if he said it didn't bother him in the least. But he can't escape responsibility for what he did. He'll have to accept it. His head is splitting from all these thoughts, but he won't let anyone break him. Meanwhile, at the cult tavern, the boy heard he was having problems due to infighting within the cult, but he has prepared the freshest products for him in hopes that they will be to his liking. The man couldn't imagine that they would pay so much attention to selecting products for them. This looks quite appetizing. What's his name again? Let the guy introduce himself. His name is Mok B. He's the head of the food hall. The guy is glad he liked everything. The accused, Gwangpyeong, despite being a disciple of the cult leader, practiced the forbidden art of devouring people. He also committed the grave sin of causing rebellion through treason, which is unforgivable. Even dismemberment would not have been enough. But given his past allegiance to their cult and his status as the cult's leader's disciple, the punishment would be beheading. The day after the execution, a shocking rumor spread through the cult. Officer Chang dropped in to see the strategist to deliver some urgent news. Rumors spread quickly that the head of criminal law is actually the cult leader's first disciple and a true great prince. Let the man give orders to all units. Only the cult leader knows how he became the head of criminal law. Regardless of his past, he is no longer in a position to be considered a successor. Cult members must not give in to rumors and focus on their duties. The military unit made an official statement, but the rumors did not subside. The source of the rumors was unclear, but their influence was too great. Everyone was shocked, wondering if a battle for succession would break out again, and the atmosphere within the cult once again became unstable. People were discussing this on every corner. They couldn't figure out who would now be the ruler's successor. The head of criminal law versus the third prince. It would be a terrifying battle. For those plotting in the shadows, this was a particularly pleasant rumor, and it didn't take long for these schemers to start acting. Suddenly, someone knocked on Master Gogu's door. He asked who was there. The man sensed the stealth technique. As expected from a criminal justice official, his senses were incredible. Even Jin Guanyang noticed, but he was too slow. Gwanpyeong didn't even notice until he was addressed. But Gogu is completely different. This is the first time someone has seen through his secrecy so quickly. The man took a closer look and realized that it was Shin Hui, the former escort of the fourth prince from Hongwi Gate. Someone with weak martial arts skills secretly entered this place. Master Gogu doesn't know what tricks the man used, but he is no longer the same as before. Wasn't he transferred to the grain supply department in the outer city during his second month of detention? Shinhui replied that was exactly it. Infiltrate the Criminal Justice Department's chief's office using invisibility. What exactly is he trying to do? Let him not worry, he is not so reckless as to engage in a fight with the Supreme Master. The man simply heard an interesting rumor and came to confirm something. The head of the Criminal Law Hall, Guogu, is the former Grand Prince of the cult and the first disciple of the cult leader. Doesn't he want to seize the throne? He has every authority to do so. Shinhui doesn't know why he became the head of the Criminal Law Hall. But the ambition hidden in his heart hasn't disappeared, has it? If his ambitions are not yet exhausted, why don't they unite? He was the cult leader's first disciple. Wouldn't it be a waste to simply give up the throne? So it was he who manipulated Jin Guangyang and Gwangpyeong? It's true that he supported them from the shadows in order to target the third prince. So where did the man use the dagger? In martial arts? Shinhui was surprised they'd discovered so much. It was quite impressive. Gwangpyeong is a fool. He probably spilled the beans before he died. However, he was never fit to be a cult leader. Master Gogu asked for an answer to his question. Shinhui said he would find out in due time. The important thing was his decision. He's unlike Gwangpyeong and Jin Guangyang. His name alone, the head of criminal law, inspires fear in the cult's demons. And he has the legal right to be the cult leader's first disciple. Does he really think a reckless boy like the third prince should be the next successor? This guy is unpredictable and dangerous. He is a true demon and a legitimate candidate for the position of head of the divine cult of heavenly demons. Gogu said that this was a rather strange speech. Judging by the way Shinhui spoke, it seemed he thought he could easily seize the throne if he wanted. That's right, if they help him, they'll be able to eliminate all the current candidates. The sect leader's words about choosing a successor weren't empty. Naturally, he'll have no choice but to choose him. However, Gogu himself insists that Shinhui knows nothing. The cult leader is not that kind of person. But even if that's true, isn't it worth trying? There's no shame in striving to be the best. But this is not something that should come from the lips of someone hiding in the shadows. But still, is he really sure that you won't regret it? He himself should regret it. A simple grain supply department employee breaking into the office of the head of criminal law is undoubtedly a crime. If he said us, that means there's someone else. Let him immediately spill everything he knows. He chose the wrong person. Shin Hui analyzed all three and decided he was the most likely, but it seems he was wrong. At this point, their conversation ended. He simply disappeared using his hidden technique. Shinhui never expected that the head of the criminal law court knew so much. He should be more careful, otherwise they could all be in danger. But suddenly the tooth fairy came flying in to check his molar. He couldn't even move. This demonic energy is terrifying. Who is he really? The guy said hello. They hadn't seen each other in so long. Shinhui couldn't figure out where he'd come from. Master Gogu knew that if word spread about him as the cult leader's disciple, he would come for him. He needed bait to draw him out. Bait for rats hiding in the shadows. Fear appeared in Shinhui's eyes. So he spread this rumor on purpose? So Ryan said he'd better spill everything he knew. Now wasn't the time to be counting his teeth. A group that harbors a grudge against the third prince is operating through the grain supply department. His goal was to manipulate the other heirs into eliminating the third prince. Let him forget everything else. Why did he join them? It didn't seem like he held such a grudge against the third prince. That bastard ruined everything he had. How could he not be offended? He's not one to admit his shortcomings. Talking about grievances is pointless. Shinhui shouted at him to shut up. He'd been punished too harshly for his mistakes. Even feeding poison to his maid was simply following the prince's orders. So Yang believes he still doesn't understand anything. That's the problem with people like him. Such people think that following orders means he is not guilty. Let him answer his question correctly. What were they planning to do with all those daggers? Where did they hide them? Let him spill the beans if he wants to live. Shinhui turned blue, as if he hadn't been to the bathroom for a month. He absolutely had to kill the guy, since he was putting his life on the line. Metal fragments began to emerge from his body. They would have to calm this beast down. It turned out the daggers were in his body. He could explode because the daggers were laced with poison. Shinhui exploded, the dagger narrowly missing Soryang. He certainly hadn't expected such madness. This monster seemed to feed on daggers. Who will check if it's dead? This is a method of self-destruction in order to avoid falling into enemy hands. So Ryang believes it's more likely a side effect that caused the explosion. They were both in danger. Last time it was the same. More and more people around were exposed to danger. He placed the daggers inside himself out of hatred. He urgently needed to meet his boss. The boys went to the Jamiro Tavern, so Ryang greeted the management. He felt ashamed of the last time and apologized, so Ryang hopes they fixed everything successfully. The service staff bowed to the third young master and the master of the criminal law hall. So Ryang said they shouldn't worry. He wasn't here to start another fight, and he hadn't planned to do that last time either. Isn't the tavern expecting a food delivery from the food pavilion today? That's true, but how does he know that? So Ryan also asked when the head of the food pavilion would arrive. The man replied that he was already there. It was getting late, and he decided to treat him. He has already completed the delivery business and is now dining on the second floor. So Ryan thought that the bastard was probably waiting for him. It was time for him to go upstairs. The man said that he could clearly feel this enveloping, dark energy. And since the outgoing energy is unstable, it can only be Shinhui. But as soon as he learned that Shinhui had died, he immediately thought of him. But that's even for the better. Whether or not the shadow effect works, one thing's for sure. It doesn't bring any pleasure, only unnecessary headaches. Before this, he hadn't had the opportunity to personally approach Soryang. He had to resort to these methods. And finally, they met. That very same killer. Soryang, the guy asked. His name is Mok B, the head of the food pavilion. He was surprised because Soryang was asking as if she was seeing him for the first time. The third young master doesn't know if word has reached him that he has lost some of his memories after the temporary refraction. So Ryan apologized. He's not the type to use such reasons as an excuse. Mok B said he didn't think so. He was exactly that kind of person. Even the most principled villain in the world can't even come close to such a despicable and petty piece of shit like him. He doesn't care what Soryang says. He won't believe a single word he says. It's surprising that the guy dared to bring along the head of the criminal law department, since he already knows that the food pavilion helped the first and second young master. So it was he who discovered the shrine where the daggers were passed down. So Ryang answered that it was true, and the rumors that the head of the criminal law hall was actually the cult leader's first disciple were spread specifically to lure him out, right? Are the cult pavilions already carrying out the next leader's orders? At this rate, the cult will disintegrate completely. Now Soryang understands that Mokbi is risking his own life just to deal with him. He remembers nothing and has no intention of returning to his past life. He understands his hatred. So Ryan asked him to stop. While pouring his delicious drink, the guy asked why. He thinks that Soryang doesn't understand why all this is being done. Without thinking twice, The young master warned that his offer was only valid once. Mokbi took these words as insolence. However, he already knew what kind of person Soryang was. Considering his own mistakes and his anger, Soryang gives him another chance to save his life. Looking at the guy as if he needed to go to the toilet, he asked what would happen if he refused. Suddenly, the table shattered into pieces from his demonic energy. Master Gogu took out his sword and ordered him to immediately conceal his demonic energy. So Ryan shouted at the head of the criminal law court to stop. The man asked why the third young master was ordering him to stop. So Ryan replied that there were 5 more waiting in 10 zongs from the tavern. They're ready to sacrifice their own lives and die in an explosion at any moment if something goes wrong. And this isn't Xin Hui. These people are great martial artists. It seems that the powers that have reached the pinnacle of demonic mastery are on a completely different level. Mokbi thought that no one except the cult leader would be able to sense their presence since they were using the energy concealment technique. Gogu believes that since it's 10 Zhang, with their skills they can easily repel their attack. So Ryan reminded them that they weren't alone here. The tavern master and the guests would be in danger. Mokbi noted that Soryang had truly changed. He was almost moved to tears by his sentiments. Who would have thought he'd care about others? So Ryan said to get everyone out of here, there was no need to involve outsiders in their conflict. Mokbi decided to tell that he had sent people to the other successors as well, and once his goals are achieved, they will be finished. So Ryan said that they didn't do anything, and 2 of them were still children. Mokbi asked if the guy remembered what he did to his son. So Ryan killed all of his parents, wife, and child. He also slaughtered every family with the surname Mok. How dare he ask him for anything? He destroyed everything because of some technology. A 3-year-old child, a beggar from the alley, or a legendary killer. Everyone has the right to mock him and despise him, but not Soryang. He believed in Pansoon's power. He trusted the cult leader. He swore an oath to the gods, followed their will, and then repeated it all over again. But they were blind to his pleas. They knew nothing of his family, his grief, or his anger. Life is an illusion. So why should he understand mindless dolls who worship gods who don't care about them? In a past life, he had already encountered such intense wrath. He was tasked with tracking down the traitor and then killing him and his entire family. My comrade said he'd leave the Alliance and no longer be associated with the assassination squad, and then flee far away. Why did he end up here? He replied that he had a family. Having left the Central Plains, he found it difficult to carry his burden. He realized he couldn't run away forever and was prepared for anything. And if Chan came to him, he would be ready. Let him tell the truth. Did he have to kill an innocent child? Soryang looked into Mokbi's eyes and sincerely said that he was sorry. Mokbi was shocked by this statement. Someone like him was incapable of asking for forgiveness. He's a demon incarnate. He never admits his own sins. He's the one who laughs even at the dead. And so, he must be torn to shreds. So Ryan swore that he would bring justice to his Mok clan and restore it to its former glory. And if he committed such a sin, he will not turn a blind eye to it. He will not turn away from his own past. Therefore, let him not touch the innocent. He only needs him. Mokbi told him to shut up. He shouldn't be so right. He thinks he has the right to do this? Renunciation of God and desperate pleas to someone else. If it weren't for his desire to take revenge on him, he would never have hurt innocent people. Mokbi burst into tears and said that he spoke as if he knew him well. He was already sick of him. He would destroy everything and everyone he held so dear. So Ryan replied that Mokbi himself knew very well that if he killed those who were not involved, he'll be a bastard just like him. Mokbi felt like a victim, and this was righteous revenge. He really isn't like Soryang. However, he understands that he can't listen to him anymore, so Ryan noticed that the flow of energy enveloping them suddenly changed dramatically. Mokbi dedicated his entire life to finding and tearing apart that monster, so that even the gods wouldn't help him. But when he said he was sorry, he decided to change his mind. Before his mind was clouded by the thought of forgiveness, he would like to carry out this revenge. The boy's mind had completely collapsed. So Ryan rushed forward to stop him. He punched him in the teeth so that he would finally come to his senses and stop talking nonsense. Mokbi said it was too late. All his comrades waiting at the Jami Pavilion and in the residence of the princes and princesses must have sensed his energy. The wheel of destruction began to turn. The only thing left for him to do was speak. So Ryan shouted to Master Gogu that they had to get out of here Everything was going to explode. The guys politely descended from the second floor and told the service personnel to leave there immediately. A hidden weapon filled with deadly poison is about to explode. Even the slightest contact will melt their limbs. They must not be exposed to danger. The tavern owner didn't want to leave. So, Ryan could have easily avoided all this if he'd been alone. Mogbai addressed his people, saying that they had worked hard all this time. Their deaths would not be in vain. Fear gripped all of Soryang's loved ones. At the residence of the 7th princess, Chae Yo-min. At Princess Ju So-yoon's residence, Yu-ryung ordered her squad to protect the princess at all costs. At the residence of the 6th prince, Chung Ryong, a heavenly demon stood up to protect the prince. The prince ordered everyone to hide. Mokbi is glad that he can finally return to the embrace of his family, and these were his last words in this life. He had fulfilled his deed. After this incident, public opinion of the third young master worsened. The demon's attention has shifted to the Mok family's story, and some even say that Soryang should be held responsible. There are reports that remnants of the Mok family still remain. They must intervene to prevent further bloodshed. Lee Jung-sun thought about how he left them alone in such a situation. The third young gentleman had already proven to him that he was right more than once. Finding such talent twice is rare. He saw moments when even he himself doubted he could achieve the same. The demon lord didn't expect the boy to surpass him. After all, no disciple could surpass him. But the third young gentleman is different. The chief strategist believes he is a cult leader. It may have its flaws, but if properly honed, it has the potential to surpass even its master. Hoyo-sung didn't know that the demon lord respected the third young master so much. Watching him grow and handle things was quite intriguing. These moments resonated deeply with his dark heart. That was why, even though he knew he was worthy, the demon lord couldn't bring himself to stop him. But now, everything must change. Leaving him alone will only bring unnecessary suffering, and so he grants the general strategist complete command over the 10 armies of heavenly demons. From now on, if anyone causes trouble because of the third young master's past, then let him declare that they will all be captured and their entire lineage eradicated. Jung Ha-jin killed his comrade's wife, parents, and child. He destroyed countless families. It was a terrible dream, so Ryan thought. He lay traumatized, not understanding what had happened. Master Guogu said he lay in bed for 3 days after the dagger exploded, the poisonous shards piercing him. Are his wounds okay? So Ryan replied that everything was fine. What about Jamie's pavilion? The man replied that the owner and everyone else were safe. The 5th princess, 6th prince, and 7th princess also survived thanks to the heavenly demons and the leader of the berserker squad. But most of the servants and guards did not survive. Public opinion, unfortunately, is not favorable toward him. Rumors about the third prince are spreading rapidly. The details of the past and the reasons for this incident have spread beyond the inner city to the outer city. More than 50 people conspired against him out of hatred for his past. Even after their murder or capture, it's impossible for only 3 to remain. Mogbei's death caused even more chaos. He certainly didn't expect that. Suddenly, Master Gogu asked if he still wanted to become a cult leader. If he considers himself resolute, then let him remain strong in this. The demon's gaze will no longer be as benevolent as before. However, Soryang isn't too worried about this. Mokbi didn't want to back him into a corner with public opinion. There's another real reason. Even if they weren't strong, they were still demons. They couldn't bear the thought of oblivion, and they could accept their deaths, or the deaths of their families, as nothing more than senseless tragedies, erased from history. They wanted the whole world to know why they tried to kill him, to justify their actions, not for themselves, but for their families. In this case, they were left with only one choice, and that was revenge. The guy was the same. Thinking about it again, it became clear that the third young master was a truly terrible person. But what now? Master Guogu asked. He still thinks the third young master is dangerous, and he can't say he's comfortable with him. As the head of the criminal justice department, the third young gentleman is not only someone he can't leave alone, but also someone he can't easily communicate with. The guy is a huge headache, but at least he knows one thing for sure. So Ryong won't repeat the mistakes of his past. The boy never thought he'd hear those words from him. Somehow, a part of his complex heart feels at peace. Master Guogu told the boy to stop making faces and take his medicine. How casually he talks to the third young master. Suddenly they noticed a carriage from the military palace. Master Guogu replied that he thought so. So Ryan said that he was not ready to see the lord of the demonic cult right now. The people who caused him headaches were all captured. So Ryan was shocked to hear this. Did the demon lord clean up after him? It was for the sake of the cult. There had been a recent riot, and such dissidents couldn't be allowed to roam freely. So Hyung asked if that meant he knew everything. Lee Jung-sung replied that he did. The overlord realizes that So-ryong wants to understand why he didn't figure this out sooner. The boy thinks the lord should forget about it. After all, it was his responsibility. And the man would have told him he should have dealt with it properly. Lee Jung-sun answered correctly, but it was his mistake. For the sake of the cult's interests, he shouldn't have allowed this. The demon lord watched the boy deal with his problems and was deeply impressed. He expected that So-ryong would show the same determination this time. However, the boy is already like a sharp blade. A carefully sharpened blade should be kept in its sheath. Sharpening it again out of caution is foolish. This waste of time can even dull the blade. That's why Lee Jong-sub believes he made a mistake. So Ryan said he wasn't mistaken. This was something the boy had to deal with on his own. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. But what's done is done. If So-ryong already feels enough regret, that's enough. Ruining your life by dwelling on it is just as wrong. A guy isn't the type to do that. He doesn't remember his past. But if this was his doing, he must take responsibility. So how does the guy plan to take on this responsibility? Does he really want to bring them even the slightest bit of comfort? In that case, let him die here and now. He will announce his glorious death to the cult, and let those whose curses he fell be ashamed. Does So Ryan agree? He mourns and pities them, even though he's not actually guilty. After all, the guy doesn't remember any of it. He'd better get rid of this pathetic sympathy and illusion of guilt. It's the only way to preserve their honor. So Ryan asked how he could know about this. Or did he consider himself a god? However, the Lord had already experienced something similar countless times. He'll never know their true motive. They didn't tell him their intentions. Such things are only valuable when the person is alive. The guilty party must repent as their victim desires. But living in an attempt to fulfill the victim's will is wrong. This only proves that they have lost their ego. So Ryong understands that many will agree that he made the wrong decision. If he is a guy who really doesn't want to do this, the situation will only get worse and turn into torture for him. Being a disciple of the head of the cult, he has the right to commit a crime and not receive due punishment. Lee Jung-sun replied that he had no choice. That was his situation. In that case, can he destroy the cult? He has a mad desire. It's up to him to decide. But until the guy becomes the head of the cult, he won't let him do it. What happens next depends on whether he takes responsibility for what he did or not. So Ryong nearly lost his life because of his past actions. In their world, revenge is commonplace. Both those who thirst for revenge and those who are ready to take it upon themselves make this choice. Let him say whether he can truly grieve for those who wanted him dead. Is the guy ready to sacrifice his own life to fulfill their will? So Ryan gritted his teeth and replied that he couldn't do any of that. So what is he willing to do for them? It didn't take long for an answer. He would remember them. Lee Jung-sung thinks that the boy has begun to understand, but is still strangely naive. If he doesn't have his own life principles, he needs to outline them, and that will be enough. So Ryan thinks the Lord is being very talkative today. He can't help but ignore the stupid, regret-tinged expression the boy's making. The Lord cannot send him away, but he is able to help him understand reality. Let him follow him. The time has come to test his determination to become the heir to the head of the cult, one last time. They will have a duel, but if he loses, there will be no next time. If he wins, he will personally train him as his successor. Because of his stupid thoughts, he fell a little into the eyes of the demon lord, and if he can't prove it to him now, show him all his strength, he won't be the heir. Meanwhile, in the divine cult of the heavenly demon, the men suddenly heard strange sounds. The first thing Hoyo-sun thought was that the Lord had engaged in a duel with the third young master. He heard that the barrier of the heavenly demon palace absorbed most of the shockwaves during battles. The cult leader has long since surpassed the level of power they can achieve. The third one, however, is powerful enough to create similar shockwaves with his attacks. The general strategist finished his work and suggested having a drink. Master Gogu was surprised by such an unexpected proposal. Hoyo-sun said he doesn't drink on duty. Can't he just relax for a second? The strategist asked him what he felt. Master Gogu didn't understand what he meant. How did Gogu feel when Shinhui came to him? Did he even consider his proposal? Then the man asked the master if he wanted to take the place of the demon lord. Gogu didn't think long before answering the strategist that of course he would like to. This answer impressed Hoyo-sun. The man truly admitted it. He doesn't like to lie when he decides to answer a question. The strategist believes he's changed so much thanks to the time he spent with Soryang. He appreciates his honesty. The master asked, "He didn't invite me for a drink without a reason. He wanted to get the opportunity to test him?" The strategist decided that since he had answered his question honestly, he should follow his example. The man really wanted to have a drink with him, not to test him, but just because. And even if ambition still glimmers deep in his soul, he understands perfectly well that all this is long in the past. He became curious about where the criminal law master had hidden Gwanpyong. He replied that he was now in an underground chamber, and no one would disturb him there. That very same ward, its size is impressive. It houses a training room, a dining hall, and living quarters. It serves as an isolated training facility, and it was there that the former head of the criminal law department received his training. Gwanpyong has abandoned his past path. He has abandoned the techniques that cloud his mind, and now he is starting all over again. In that case, there were no more obstacles in the third young master's path. Master Guogu agreed with him. The only problem left is public opinion, but the strategist believes the guy can handle it. The future head of the cult. No one knows exactly when the ruler will hand over his position, but it won't be long before that happens. Hoyo-san always knew the time would come to welcome the heir to the leadership, but he never imagined that day would arrive so soon. Master Guagua was of the same opinion. They clinked cups of the exquisite drink and assured each other that they were always ready to help. They felt a powerful shockwave in the air. It seemed the Demon Lord was serious about this duel. The strategist believes that at this rate, they will destroy the entire backyard. Guogu concluded that, judging by the force of the shockwaves, they were fighting at full strength. They were engaged in a duel to the death. He feels as if they are in the pavilion of divine judgment. There is no other place in the cult that could contain the might of the master's mastery. So Ryan attacked the Lord first. The man appreciated the boy's attack, but it wasn't enough to secure victory. It's time to have fun. He will show the guy a couple of his techniques. So Ryan is shocked by the Demon Lord's external martial arts. It's not just a matter of martial arts mastery. It's not a matter of inner strength or technical mastery. It's pure, overwhelming power. Lee Jung-sun appreciated the guy. His strength exceeds expectations, and he likes his determination. But all this isn't enough. For the first time since his isolation training, he feels this power, but he shouldn't feel it while testing his student. The Lord is impressed. Countless corpses and buildings destroyed beyond recognition appear on the ground. A huge city, engulfed in flames, as if destroyed by an unstoppable storm. Since Chun Ha-jin acquired this body, this is the first time, or perhaps the last, that he will witness the unveiling of this supreme heavenly demonic art. The demonic court pavilion had simply turned into hell. What should he do? He cannot be absorbed into this heavenly, higher realm. If he is carried away, that is the end. So Ryan decided to draw his inner strength from the deepest depths and release the 9 phantom demonic arts to their full extent. He has to give it his all from the start. That's the only way he'll have a chance. Lee Jung-sun had seen this martial art once before. It's strange that the guy would try it. So Ryan knows this is the hand of the demon that slays the sky. He won't be able to escape it. The Demon Lord's main move is not evasion or defense, but a high-speed attack. He destroyed his mountain-destroying double fist with one blow of force. The guy was the one who attacked and now suffered internal damage. He has an incredibly powerful martial art. Lee Jung-sun was amazed by the boy's method of emitting power. He channeled mountain-crushing force into both hands to deliver a double strike. So Ryan understands that even if she uses all her martial arts, she won't be able to touch him. But there is nowhere to retreat. He will continue to attack, again and again. He will move forward relentlessly, and perhaps it will deliver at least one decisive blow. The ground beneath their feet trembled from such a wave, but the boy was too naive to think this would help him. Lee Jung-sun ended up behind him, so Ryan decided to switch to chain techniques for close combat. Even if one strike is not enough, combining them together will create a destructive force comparable to a thunder cannon shaking the sky. But from such crazy movements, his joints will scream in agony, as if they were all dislocated. His endurance is simply amazing. It has reached an extreme level. So Ryan even managed to touch the Overlord and deal damage. Is there really any hope? The Demon Lord appreciated his strike. The boy had grown so technically. The great protector of the divine cult, Mudam, asked the elder, "How cruel is this duel?" Elder Bloody Hand thinks Soryang's skills are amazing. No wonder everyone praised him so much. The third young master is currently the closest to becoming the successor. Doesn't this make Mudam feel a little uneasy? In any case, the cult leader will have the final say. It's up to him to decide, but he'll soon have to serve a new master. And yet, he seems surprisingly calm. Nothing will change if the cult leader recognizes the guy as his successor. Then for him, they are both equally honorable. The man has dedicated decades to this cult. Doesn't he want a break? Mudam replied that he did not understand what the elder meant. There is no hidden meaning to this. It is just that, at their age, there is an understanding that power is nothing more than an illusion. The elder understands that the great protector does not do this for power. Responsibility is the driving force that keeps a person going. But in life, he realized that letting go is just as important as acquiring. Mudam said that he had found a worthy successor, but he was not ready yet. Every time Lee Jong-sung sees Soryang's growth, he realizes he always exceeds expectations, so he had to change his mind. It's not that the guy will exceed his expectations, but that he underestimated his potential. Now it's his turn to attack first. What will Soryang come up with this time? He smiled wryly and replied that that wouldn't happen. He would attack first, no matter what. In that case, let him go ahead. He needs to try his best. So Ryan decided to use the technique of absolutely endless blades. However, nothing came of it. Lee Jung-sun protected himself with demonic energy. Suddenly, the guy decided to use the Blade of Seven Nights and purified energy to create a sword technique. The phantom soul must ascend to heaven. With one wave of his hand, he mercilessly sent all the swords at him. But this was not enough, and he decided to immediately resort to the technique, the thunder fist that shakes the sky. Lee Jung-sun simply clenched his fist and stopped the powerful attack. The boy used the first sky-shaking thunder fist technique in a completely new way. He hadn't even mastered it yet. So Ryan can't move his fingers. He admitted that the Demon Lord is very strong. Lee Jung-sun squeezed his fist tighter. It looked like he couldn't escape. An explosive rock blast followed. He won't be able to use that arm anymore. Damn, old man, I should have gotten him drunk today. His body was engulfed in flames, as if he were in the very heart of a raging fire. The Demon Lord merely grinned ominously and said, "This is how his disciple should be." Now so Ryan understood for sure that this sick man was not human. He was too strong. He felt the toxic energy. It was the toxic energy from Mukbi's explosive poison dagger, escaping from his body. The supreme heavenly demonic chi that constantly causes internal injuries rages in his meridians, expelling all the poison. Lee Jung-sun realized that the guy was ready. He wanted him to prove his fighting strength. He was very eager to see how much he had grown and what he could show him with his improved abilities. A man will be honest with him. In his life filled with emptiness and monotony, he had never met a fighter who surprised him as much as So Ryong. The boy had proven his strength. Even before reaching the level of a demon lord, his martial arts had dealt him considerable damage. But more than his martial arts, he enjoys his absolute self-confidence. The Demon Emperor's dominant aura completely took over his body. He has more than enough qualifications to become the god of the new era. Lee Jung-sun will no longer test him or create obstacles in his path. Considering all of Soryang's difficulties, the man decided it would be right if he gave him a gift. The young successor must under no circumstances be weaker than the Demon Lord. So Ryan couldn't understand what was happening to him. The courtroom began to collapse before his eyes. Is it pain or ecstasy? You could have asked first, before infusing it with someone. This is the third gate of hell of the 9 phantom demonic arts. The roar of terror from the Demon King, tearing apart the world. Now so Ryan understood everything. The reason he couldn't open the third gate of hell was because he had no suffering. The real suffering is the torment he felt before the duel. A journey through suffering in search of your true self. This path of suffering is the demonic path. Could this really have been his path from the very beginning? And how will he exist, becoming a demon? There it was. The sight of the collapsing arena of fate proved that his essence had changed. The instincts of a death god who had grasped the essence of death vanished entirely. In their place, the instincts of a solitary and exalted demon god took root. Lee Jung-sun congratulated his student. Now he truly became a demon. People from the military department came to Soryang's house with an urgent message. Donpil said that the young master is not here at the moment. What business do they have here? They came to check on the current condition of Guard Captain Ma Dongpil. The man replied that it was not bad. His recovery was accelerating over time. That's all he needed to know. Donpil asked what he had. Let Captain of the Guard Ma Dongpil, who serves the third prince, accept the divine scripture from the cult leader. Donpil got down on one knee and said he accepted the leader's divine scripture. He needs to be at the central square of the inner city in 2 days. Dongpil realized it was about the third young master. So, in the end, it had all come down to this. The elder told Yuryong that he saw a demon in a military uniform. What did they want from her? Was she creating problems out of nothing again? The girl replied that she hadn't. The demon from the military department gave her this message for the elder. He had a premonition, but he didn't think it would happen so quickly. It seemed the cult leader had truly fallen in love with Sodiang. That's why the shockwave was spreading from the palace of the god of war. Things are going to get tense, starting tomorrow. Get ready to stay up all night. Yuryong is believed to have managed to establish a good connection in any case. Meanwhile, a commotion also broke out in the hall of the internal organ of enlightenment. Choi was informed that the lady wanted to see her. Did something happen? Sao Youngshim said that from today on, this child would live with them. The third prince had personally requested this. The little girl greeted the chief observer. Her name is Mok Yu. So Ryan feels a bit awkward. Why does it have to be done this way? The cult leader was right. Since it wasn't something he did himself, he doesn't feel an overwhelming sense of guilt toward him. For a moment, the guy even felt irritated, wondering why he should be the one responsible. Because he is not some great saint or noble figure, just an ordinary man. And even if he takes responsibility, he doesn't know how. Sodiang doesn't want to die, but he also doesn't want to live in constant torment. He has his own life after all. And he also has a goal. He dreams of destroying the Waichun Alliance and the Iron-Blooded Castle, and then disappearing far away from here. That's why the guy wanted to become the successor, so he could move freely and command the cult's forces as he pleased. He'll become the head of the cult and turn it upside down, ensuring his kind never appear again. He doesn't know if he can, but he has to find a way. This is the 6 Heavenly Heart liquor. It's a liquor carefully crafted by their beloved demon lord. He doesn't know if it will bring him any comfort, but he hopes it will at least ease his heart a little. The boy will remember them all. Each and every one of them, though he has no right to say so given the body he now occupies. At the very least, he will do everything possible to ensure that no one in the cult suffers from injustice, as happened to him. When his time comes to leave the cult, he will return to it only after he has changed the cult to such an extent that he can look at it without shame. He didn't reject his past, but he did cast time off his shoulders. He hadn't yet secured his future, but he had set his sights on a new goal. The cult leader should appear in the central square of the palace of the god of war. The holy god has set out on his journey. Let all pay their respects to the demon lord. The supreme holy cult reigns. The heavenly demon is immortal. The humble children of the demon greet the holy god. Let everyone raise their heads. Today, their god, the new master of the cult, will be chosen. At first, the bishop wanted to wait until the festival began, but this is no longer necessary. He was already convinced that the heir he had chosen was more than worthy of this title. The era of his reign gradually passed into the hands of a new generation. Although he intended to rule for as long as his strength lasted, he understood perfectly well how they waited with trepidation for the emergence of a new lord of the cult. This heir has no further training. Their new leader has become independent. He is able to resist him, perhaps even stronger than him. They cannot be disappointed by his choice. Li Jungsun ordered the chief guard to call for someone worthy to continue his journey. The chief guard shouted at the top of his lungs, "Let the heir to the head of the divine cult of heavenly demons reveal himself to the people!" Donpil was fortunate enough to accompany the head's heir. He was waiting for him at the main gate. So Ryung showed up in a new red robe with dragons. Does it suit him, or is it too much? Let us know in the comments. At that moment, an all-consuming wave of emotion washed over him. Millions of eyes were turned in his direction. In his past life, he always hid in the shadows. The guy went through so much to end up here. Seeing Manhwa, Sodiang remembered that she was the first person he met when he woke up within the cult walls. Thanks to her boundless care, he was able to survive. And Yuryung's expression finally matches her will. They've been through a lot together. He was able to reach such heights thanks to her. And also the unwavering Ma Dongpil. He's like a loyal friend, always by his side. If he had a brother, he would be like him. Sodiang is grateful to him from the bottom of his heart. He addressed the ruler, saying that this was a great honor for him. Let him accept his boundless respect. Lee Jung-song said the boy was the perfect candidate to become the next head of the cult. Who else could have succeeded so well in everything? So Diang was the heir he'd been searching for so long. Is he willing to devote the rest of his life to the good of their cult and take care of its people along with it? So Ryan said majestically that he would devote himself entirely to this matter. People were happy to hear these words. Anhwa even burst into tears. The remaining heirs were also glad that Soryang was chosen. Ma Dongpil is genuinely happy for his master. He will continue to follow him. Suddenly, Goldie joined their party. He managed to invite a new friend along with him. So Ryang thanked Goldie for coming on this important day. He is very glad that they found a common language with the Tiger King. Lee Jung-san was impressed that the boy took and raised a cub from the animal palace. So Ryan also thanked the tiger for coming to share the joy of this day with him. The Tiger King roared throughout the cult in honor of the new leader. So Ryan no longer needs to hold back. The righteous heavenly alliance, the fortress of steel blood, has achieved sufficient power to be able to stand against them. It looks like this is just the beginning for old man Jung Ha-jin. The 10-leaf clover has bloomed again. Of the 10 seeds planted, only 5 managed to germinate. The head of the righteous heavenly alliance, Dam-sen, sensed an ominous omen. The assistant ran as fast as he could to tell the chief the urgent news. The Hua clan leader broke through to them. He was too strong and they couldn't stop him. Although they represent a clan of sword masters, they were originally all Taoists, and now they're submitting to someone who can't even control their own emotions. Are they losing their former confidence? As for the assistant, this is unacceptable on his part. He should have solved this problem. If something like this happens again, he and his people will say goodbye to their lives. The cries of the Hua clan's leader, Hong Sanja, could be heard throughout the hall. The guards tried their best to calm the man down, saying that their leader would be here soon. Damsen said the room was unusually lively today. It sounded like a rooster had started crowing. Hong Sanja immediately asked, "Is he still going to treat the Hua clan like dirt from under his fingernails?" Damsen sat down at the table and ordered his men to leave the two of them alone. And the man also ordered the whiner to sit down. He was in the head's hall. He shouldn't raise his voice. However, Hong Sanja decided to continue. He blames him for the deal he made with Zhongnan. Damsen replied that he should stop slandering his master's name and pull himself together. Even his master did not allow himself to raise his voice in the chapter hall. If he shows such disrespect again, Damsen will immediately strip him of his title as an alliance elder. The Jinlao armed detachment is engaged in the delivery and protection of valuables and important persons for a fee. This detachment was organized by those close to the disciples of the leader of the alliance. However, the Hua clan's escort made a deal with Zhongnan, a rival clan in the same Shanxi region. Damsen believes he is aware that the alliance's students organize and manage escort squads, with a portion of their income going to the clan. However, the head of the accompanying detachment reported that the number of people willing to go has recently decreased. Hong Sanja became nervous again. Could this be because of the Zhongnan detachment's new escort? Damsen couldn't understand his displeasure. Weren't they entitled to create their own? That wasn't what he meant. He did say that Sochong's escort detachment was under the control of the Hua clan. So, if that's the case, he could very well make his demands based on the current situation. Their income dropped sharply, but they continued to contribute the profits they earned. Naturally, unrest arose within the detachment. But if that's true, then Damsen could have given him information. So, has the squad leader now expressed a desire to defect to Zhongnan? To be more precise, he wants to end his business relationship with the Hua clan. When a deal is concluded between a clan and its accompanying detachment, both organizations are recognized as fully sovereign. And the Sochon detachment is not a vassal of the Hua clan. It is an independent organization, but it was the Hua clan that demanded profit from them, like bandits who had found easy prey. If he really wants to maintain a good relationship, let him show more respect for them. Otherwise, can the Hua clan be called righteous if its leader does nothing but demand that he be given favors? Hong Sanja wonders, if even that's the case, how can he treat the alliance's strongest clan this way? Or does their clan mean nothing to him? Damsen said that to some extent, this is true. Hong Sancha farted in anger and decided to get up. How dare he speak like that about their clan? Damsen asked again if he had heard his complaint correctly. How could someone so short-sighted be the clan leader? The current leader's words truly upset him. Let him open his ears wider and finally hear him. He, who has occupied the head's post for a measly 3 years, wants a replacement found for him? Hong Sanja's tongue was glued to the table, and he couldn't move. What does he think would happen if the smaller clans and those units learned of the demands he is making to him the head of the righteous heavenly alliance. Damsen gives him a choice. He can either talk about breaking the deal between Sojong and the Hua clan and taking profit from them, or he sends him to prison for fraud with the clan's budget. So what does he choose? To humiliate himself? Or to rot in prison? So Ryang asked Jung Ryang why he wanted to meet him at such a late hour. Had something happened? The guy congratulated So Ryan on becoming the new head of the cult. But were his congratulations sincere? Chung Myang paused and replied that he was somewhat pleased. The young man congratulates him on becoming the head of the clan, but he can't say he doesn't harbor some regrets deep down inside. After all, he too was the Lord's successor. It seems this asshole doesn't understand jokes at all. However, the headmaster's sixth disciple, Chong Ryan, is a man who is completely incapable of lying. So Ryan said he even liked it. But why did he call him? What did the guy want to say? If their family had committed a mortal sin against the cult, could he forgive them? And he is not talking about turning a blind eye to what was done. Every crime must be punished accordingly. He simply wanted to say that he would always be devoted to the divine cult of the heavenly demon. But if his family were to commit an act against the cult, let him punish them in their stead. He will bear the burden for them. But if Soryang says that he is no longer part of the cult, then he will understand everything. It seems like the boy already knows that the Gogyong family is planning to leave the cult. Chonryan apologized. He himself didn't know whether he should say something like that now. So Ryang understands that carrying such responsibility at such a young age is not an easy task. He resembles his father. However, he is still so young and doesn't know that the full responsibility for a family's crimes falls on its head, not on a blood relative. So Ryang admires him because it takes incredible courage to say this, and his decisiveness suggests that he truly will be willing to take full responsibility. Suddenly, his stomach made hunger sounds. He hadn't eaten anything since yesterday. Would the guy like a snack? So Ryan thinks he's a pretty good cook. Jung Ryang said he couldn't afford to dine with the leader. Soryang replied that when they were alone, he could call him Big Brother. Today, he's treating them and will conjure up something interesting for their sixth student. Anhwa offered her help. The celebration party began. So, Ryan treated the boy to a delicious wine prepared by the Lord himself and kindly given to him. The pets weren't left without dinner either, so Ryan made sure they had fresh meat. He hadn't had this much fun in a long time. The evening was a great success. He decided to stretch his back a little and get some fresh air. Goldie decided to help his owner. What a cheeky fellow. For the first time in a long time, he was full. Recently, he and the Tiger King had shared a joint meal of about 72 kilograms of beef from Huangwei Garden. Looks like Goldie knows how to take care of her charges, doesn't she? But Anhwa is confused. Goldie needs to be held a little. He remembers how they used to play when he was little. Anhwa tried so hard to feed him delicious food. How stupid and heartless he is. The sky is truly beautiful today. Perhaps it's all because of the ceremony. Does that mean it's time? He thought that once he became the leader, he could do whatever he wanted. Master Guogua said that if he attacked the righteous heavenly alliance, he would draw all the cult's followers into the war. And if the fate of their cult is not alien to him, then he should think carefully about his actions. As old man Guogua said, he can no longer act as the third young master of the cult. Becoming the young master of the cult has given him not only a title, but also a tremendous responsibility. This is so difficult for him, and he might have to have a couple more glasses of delicious wine. The general strategist was shocked to see Soryang at his place at such a late hour. The guy said he wanted to drink, but seeing his face, he thought it was in vain that he came. Hoyosung replied that he was right on time, even though one eye was already closing. Let him follow him. Ryan felt a little uneasy. Maybe he needed more snacks? He was impressed by this room and the maps. The general strategist said he'd only been in his office before. And this was the strategic calculation room. The map contained a wealth of detail. Hoyosung said that among the three most powerful organizations, their cult's map was considered the most detailed and accurate. So Ryan, his mouth open in amazement, asked what the strategist wanted to talk to him about. Lately, there has been a movement of the forces of the righteous celestial alliance. Before explaining everything to So Ryan, he needs to make sure of one thing. When he said he'd wipe the alliance off the face of the earth, did he mean he planned to get rid of both organizations? Or did he simply want to overthrow the leaders and key figures? So Ryan will first deal with the leader and his cronies, and then destroy the entire organization. Even if he fails to destroy the entire alliance, he will kill the leaders one by one. Now, did he answer his question? Hoyo-san, without saying anything, reached into his pocket and pulled out some kind of message. This is a report from a secret agent of the Hidden Pavilion. Unrest within the righteous Celestial Alliance is commonplace, but it has been a long time since anything out of the ordinary has happened. It seems that the head of the Hua clan, insulted by the head of the Alliance, is planning a rebellion. In this case, a new piece appears on the board. What is their next move? So Ryan replied that he urgently needed to meet with the Lord. The guards informed the Demon Lord that the young leader wished to see him. The man agreed. It seems they have only one thing to do at such a late hour: lift heavy glasses of wine. Young leader So Ryan greeted his demon lord. The boy asked why he wasn't drinking the drink of the 6 heavenly spirits today. He replied that it was a green liquor made from bamboo leaves. So Ryan said it smelled very good. Perhaps he had another glass? The master replied, "Of course." The guest sheepishly admitted that perhaps he shouldn't have asked such a question, especially since he arrived so late. But he nonetheless inquired, "When does the Lord sleep anyway?" He replied that only when he needs to. Lee Jong-song praised the young man for his worthy performance at the ceremony, although he admitted that it was not enough to suffice for the appointment. He believes that he did nothing wrong. Humans were the only ones who succeeded in this. So Ryan came from the military department's planning room. The overlord finds this place boring. The general strategist showed it to him, saying that he had come across some interesting information. Lee Chang-sa understands perfectly well that Mount Hua is causing problems. They've always done that. Namely, the leader of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance. Didn't the guy say that he dreams of destroying the Righteous Heavenly Union and the Fortress of Steel Blood? Now that So-ryang has become a young leader, he can tell us what he thinks about them and their way of life. 30 years ago, when he became rather passive towards external forces, the 10 sects and 5 great clans were quite powerful. However, time passed and they changed. Sharing martial arts made them stronger, but they lost their strong bond. Why do you think that is? So Ryan thinks it's because of the righteous leader of the Heavenly Alliance? He's a snake, a viper, you might say. He's as evil as an emoji and as cunning as a 9-tailed fox. The heads of sects and clans, who are supposed to be symbols of cooperation, they were corrupted by him, for he used weapons 100 times more effective than magic and 10 times more unforgiving than demonic arts. The guy was surprised. Does such a weapon really exist? The weapon was called greed. He knew he had to break their minds first, to make them kiss his feet, and gain control of the sects and clans. Damsen gave them a taste of real greed and real power. It was like adding poison to a clear pond. But what is the advantage? How is this possible? There's one simple way, called competition. It has a positive effect on an organization with a good system. However, in an organization without such a good system, it has a terrible impact. The righteous leader of the Heavenly Alliance sowed the seed of greed through competition and led them to split within his own circle. Moreover, they did not hesitate to engage in shady business in order to win the competition. They even hired assassins to get rid of their rivals. Amidst all this, Damsen became a mediator. Sects and clans began to sway him to their side, and he did what they wanted. He bowed his head when they wanted, and he knelt when they wanted, like a puppet leader of the alliance. By the time they realized something was wrong, it was too late. The clan and sect leaders were mistaken in thinking that they were manipulating the alliance leader. Dam Se-young held all their misdeeds in his hands and took control of them. It was then that his martial arts also improved. Having gained more power, resources, and control over information, he began to obtain all sorts of miracle cures. But miracle drugs alone won't make your martial arts stronger. Of course, but this makes it easier to improve through training. Lee Jung-sun is confident that his martial art is comparable to that of 10 martial artists. Dam Se-yeon is stronger than So-ryang and the demon elders combined. In that case, he is looking forward to fighting him. Lee Jung-sun couldn't figure out if it was just a pure desire to kill this man. The boy might have become a true demonic martial artist, but he still hadn't broken his old habits. In any case, it doesn't matter. He must be able to maintain dignity even in the worst situations. So the guy came to him because of what's happening in Shanxi? So Ryang replied that he did. Lee Jung-sun is sorry, but he can't allow this. His eyes are so arrogant. The Lord saw himself in So-ryan, in something he didn't need. Let him follow him. He needs things that prove he's his disciple, regardless of whether the boy is causing trouble in Zhongyuan or beyond its walls. So Ryan is always happy about this place. It really is so mysterious. The air here is special and cozy, but at the same time, there's something otherworldly about it. There's a lot of spiritual energy here, just like in a secluded bamboo grove. It is an illusory kingdom modeled after a secluded bamboo grove. This grove existed even before the appearance of their cult. All sorts of mythical creatures inhabit this place. He's sure So Ryan has seen them. The boy saw things similar to the anicaps that can be seen in a classic painting: mountains and seas. Firstly, the classical mountains and seas were based on imagination. This book contains only a few mythical creatures that actually exist. So, some of them actually exist in real life. Lee Jung-sun said it was the fox he befriended. He was referring to Goldie. This is a very rare and mythical creature. It has an incomparable influence on their world. There is a legend that if a jackal appears, then a war will break out in this country. Because of this, in the past, people regarded the jackal as something that brought death. After all, it makes sense. Wherever it appeared, all sorts of disasters occurred. He differs from mythical creatures born of chi or yokai. His very existence, capable of altering the course of worldly affairs, means he possesses sufficient chi to intervene in fate. Everything in the world begins and ends with chi, and the jackal is no exception. It is a mythical creature that mirrors life and death. So Ryan couldn't even imagine that Goldie could be so strong. But why did they come here? Lee Jung-sun said the guy called it the demonic art of the 9 depths. That's what So Ryan called his demonic arts. And it impressed the man. The Lord knows he used Buddhist martial arts to alter the default demonic ones. The foundation is the demonic arts, but the Buddhist ones complement it. He managed to make it a coherent whole without sacrificing its unique features. It's a true masterpiece, but it's still considered a disgrace. The demonic art of the 9 depths is complete. He doesn't need to change anything. However, there's one major flaw. Does the guy know what it is? So Liang replied that it's history. And he was absolutely right. The guy did it himself. It's so seamless that it's hard to believe it was made by just one person. However, this is still not enough. But why? So Liang asked, perplexed. It's all because he's a young leader. That's all. Just being able to get drunk at night isn't enough. This martial art is proof that he is his heir. Such is the tradition. To lead the divine cult in the future, he will need to master it. Therefore, he will teach him the demonic emperor Qi. So Ryan had long been curious. Did the Lord transfer the demon emperor's Qi to Jin Guanyan? The guy probably heard that Master Gogu was his first student. He is a spy sent by the righteous heavenly alliance. Although he cannot compare to him, nor to the 5th, nor to the youngest, he still has considerable talent. He's not as good as Soryang, but one day, Gogu will be able to reach the level of a heavenly demon. Lee Jung-sun never had any attachment to his students, but he is different. With his first student, it was different. He amazed him so much that his heart trembled, not like before. He liked him, not for his talent, but for the courage in his eyes. But the past doesn't matter. That's why Lee Jung-sun didn't kill him. He used the illusion of the demonic court pavilion to imitate a corpse, showed it to some important people, and closed the case. And then he sent him to the criminal law pavilion. Guo Gu is indeed skilled in martial arts, but his talent in formations and mechanical things is beyond imagination, almost the best in the world. The underground thunder prison belonging to the criminal law hall, its labyrinth, the structure of the demon lord's palace, and even the reinforced formations of the demon court pavilion are all the fruits of his painstaking work. But this man doesn't want to acknowledge his greatest talent. That's why he clings so tightly to martial arts. So Liang understands that this is the reason. He wanted them to train together. After that incident, he no longer wanted to accept disciples. But he also couldn't help but choose an heir. So Lee Chung-san handed over the Demon Emperor's Qi to the first. Having placed it on him, he hoped he would be able to understand it on his own. And he no longer wanted to be involved in matters with the heir. But this is irresponsible, so Ryan said. Vladika understood everything, but does not regret anything. From now on, everything will be different. He doesn't want to fail a third time, passing on the most powerful demonic art to their cult. So Ryan doesn't know if he can learn this. This technique might conflict with the 9 demons technique. The Lord told him not to whine. He would not give meat to someone who could not even chew it. He won't need 4 swords anymore. Apart from the blade of the 7 knights, the other 3 swords are beyond the power of their best smiths. It would take too long, so he would melt them down himself. The hilts of the 4 swords were completely destroyed. It was a technique known as the Demon Emperor's Qi Calamity Flame Scorching Heaven. Liquid steel was simply boiling in the air. So Ryan was shocked. How was this possible? A heaven-scorching flame of calamity. It seemed to be based on demonic hellfire. But the temperature and destructive power were on a completely different level. Lee Jung-sun believes that there is no need for fancy decorations. He infused the Demon Emperor's chi into the sword and sealed it. Whenever he felt stuck, he should release his energy and sense it. It might work for him in its own way. He not only forged his sword, but also infused it with his own energy. This is beyond human capabilities. He truly deserves to be called transcendental. As for the handle and sheath, let him decide for himself what suits him best. Something feels different compared to their last training session, so Ryan said that he should get some rest. From now on, he will teach him Demonic Emperor Chi. Even with his skill, it would have taken 3 days, or 3 nights. It seemed the guy should have figured it out. Let him focus. So Ryan feels like his next level is just around the corner. Lee Jung-sun went a bit overboard. More than 20 years have passed since he surpassed the peak of his demonic arts and stepped into the unknown realm. People call it the world of transcendence, but in reality, it is a world that is extremely unclear. It is difficult even to give it a name. A person must dive deep and keep diving until he wants to fly, to truly transcend something. Once a person enters transcendence, or even the higher demonic realm, his chi expands like an endless ocean. It was a state in which the universe was stored within the human body, a realm where one could even play with the principle of all existence, using unlimited energy. But the body was tired of creating demonic arts. Born a man, called a god, but unable to manifest the true power of a god. Had there been a change in him? He'd never been attached to any student except Gwagu. So why did he do all this? Maybe he's just curious. After all, he still believes in humanity, but it may be that trust has long since disappeared. 30 years of isolation from the outside world. He did it to end it all, like a god. So Ryan might be the one who can bear this burden. Now that everything has worked out this way, let him fly as high as he can. The general strategist asked, what was that behind him? So Ryan replied that it was a new sword that the Lord had forged for him. Did he melt down his 4 original swords and forge them anew? Hoyo-sung doesn't know much about martial arts, but is this even possible? So Ryang replied that it was the first time he'd seen something like this too. The strategist found it strange that So Ryan looked calmer than he had 3 days ago. Did he inherit the Demon Emperor's chi? So Ryan was surprised. The chief strategist seemed to have a very keen eye, but Hoyo-sung himself was shocked. The boy had figured it all out in just 3 days? However, this is not at all the case. He understands the basic principles of its use and remembers the details. There were so many techniques that So-ryang thought his brain was about to explode. Even among the 10 great demonic arts, most people cannot master any of them in their entire lives. It is so difficult. And the Demon Emperor's chi is not just a random technique. It is the king of all demonic arts, and the legacy of thousands of years of demonic history. He was able to understand how to use such martial arts in just 3 days. Hoyo-sung doesn't mean to offend, but he feels like the guy has become so skilled in martial arts that he's no longer quite suited to be the leader of a cult. So Ryan thinks so too, and feels burdened. The strategist asked him to be casual with him. Really? He's changing so quickly, it's scaring him. So Ryang said he doesn't want to use titles when talking to him. Let him look at a detailed map of Shanxi instead. Even the shortest routes through the border provinces are marked on it. He will need it for the upcoming mission. No one knows the northern Yangtze better than he does, but he'd still be better off taking this map. There's one problem though. Given the purpose of this mission, they can't provide visible escort. The territory north of the Yangtze River is the territory of the Righteous Heaven Alliance. If a group of demonic cultists is spotted, they will immediately take emergency action. Sending too many bodyguards will make the situation even more dangerous. But if it's too little, he'll be caught. If their intelligence network identifies him, they'll send troops immediately. They won't act rashly, and they won't leave him alone. So what has you decided? What is he going to do? He doesn't think they need to complicate the situation. As long as he can enter Shanxi without any problems, that's the most important thing, right? The general strategist replied that this was true. But did he have a plan? There are people listed as hostages, but they call them guests. She still lives in his residence. She's idle, so it's better to tell her to be useful to the cult. Meanwhile, Yosanrin sneezed so hard that her eyes almost popped out. The girl asked if she was cold. Anhwa replied that she couldn't be cold. After all, they were in the south. So Youngshim asked if he was planning to use this tactic to get to Shenxi. But was that a problem? The girl replied that there seemed to be a problem. How did he even come up with that? So Ryan doesn't think this is a particularly original idea. Getting to Shanxi is easy. They can claim that the Ice Palace's daughter is on a tour of Zhongyuan and disguise themselves as her guards. So Young Shim thinks it's certainly original, but it seems like such an idea could damage the cult's reputation. But for him, dignity isn't found in status, but in actions and words. Surely he must understand that if they were caught, not only would their safety be at risk, but it would also be a huge shock to demonic Murim. Are you sure so, Ryan? This will even affect the Demon Lord. He won't care, but the morale of the demonic Murim fighters will be at rock bottom. The guy thinks he doesn't care anymore. He's already got permission. All that's left is to act. He just needs a reliable vehicle. So, he's here. So Ryan thanked her for her concern, but she shouldn't interfere in this matter. So Young Shim said he hadn't changed a bit. He just shrugged, saying he was born this way. This is called shadow steel cloth, a treasure. He doesn't know what it's made of, but it's said to be able to withstand even a peak realm-level sword's aura. It's from the Heavenly Vault. It can be worn directly over underwear, and this is called the poison-repelling bracelet. In some ways, it's even more valuable than the shadow steel cloth. It will protect her from most deadly poisons. This is the bloody robe of the celestial silkworm. They say it can withstand even a cannon blast. Rumor has it that it even disperses blows. The girl asked if he really thought that these things would make her feel better if he had decided everything for her without even discussing it. What was the point of giving her all these gifts if he'd already made up his mind? So Ryang apologized, saying he'd simply gotten carried away. Yo Sunrin asked who else would be coming with them. The boy replied, Dongpil, and added, it's best to act discreetly. The girl offered to take Anhwa as well, but the young lord refused, saying it was too dangerous. Yo Sanrin thinks she has to go. The daughter of the Ice Palace's master, traveling without a maid, with 2 male guards? Doesn't he think it's ridiculous? So Ryang hadn't thought of that. But couldn't Anhwa be left out? It could be dangerous. The girl noticed that he genuinely cared about her. But is there another servant in the divine cult who has as much inner energy and who reads the situation better than her? To some extent, Yo Sanrin is right. Anhwa has trained diligently in chi cultivation. She probably has the strongest internal energy of all the servants. This is actually a great opportunity for her. Now they can teach her martial arts properly. Yo Sanrin will explain everything to her herself. Now she will have to put aside her broom and cooking for a while. Let her clear her head a little. Guard Chief Mudam greeted his great demon lord. Li Zhongsan asked how the guards were doing lately. There are no problems. The first leader is very skilled, so everything works smoothly, and there have been no complaints. Everyone is also steadily improving. The lord asked if his name was Li Gunsung. He'd often heard the boy was talented. Was Mudam planning to pass on his role to him? The man thought it was too early to decide, but he was definitely right for the role. Li Zhongsan ordered him to be brought to him as soon as the decision was made. In this case, they can drink this delicious drink. Suddenly, the demon lord coughed. Guardian Mudam asked if he was sick for hours. Even if he wanted to get sick, his body wouldn't allow it. The Overlord will never get sick as long as he lives. A Terminator, perhaps? However, he looked a little tired. Li Zhongsan replied that this was the first time he had completely depleted his chi since reaching this realm. It was impossible not to be tired. Did the first guard know how he became a demon lord? The man replied that he knew only a little. Li Zhongsan is sure that he did not see this with his own eyes, because Mudam was very young at the time. He won this position through a fight. The battle for succession then was in many ways different from today's. It was far more brutal and savage. Deceiving enemies was taken for granted. If necessary, people would take family members of their opponents hostage, and even provoke internal conflicts. Mudam heard it was the worst time ever. Even the former cult leader couldn't do anything about it. He didn't have that kind of power. That's because several candidates, including him, had surpassed him in martial arts skills. The former leader had hit a wall. The problem wasn't his martial arts, but his character. He had failed to attain the title of Heavenly Demon, and the resulting inferiority complex had turned him into a tyrant. Because of this, the demonic martial artists constantly complained, and the leaders became mired in corruption. Many even left the divine cult. They and the other candidates weren't the former leader's disciples. Among them were the children of high-ranking officials, as well as ordinary children of demonic martial artists. But for them, it wasn't status that mattered. What mattered was the future. What mattered was what they, as those responsible for the next generation, should do. There were a total of 13 young demonic martial artists with proper thinking and sufficient fighting strength. They created a secret group called the Divine Demon Society, and then secretly appropriated all the martial arts techniques and miracle medicines. 5 years later, they came to a common decision: to fight to the death. No one recognized them as worthy candidates, but they continued to move forward. It was only after half of them had died in that mad battle that they finally received support from the cult members. It was a hellish stage, a stage where they had to kill their own friends and prove their worth. They did not feel any malice towards their opponents, even in the last moments of their lives. They believed that if their opponent was better, he would be able to return the divine cult to the right path. Surprisingly, that battle isn't over yet. He intends to put an end to it soon. Wasn't he curious as to why he'd minimized his activities outside the cult 30 years ago? Mudam replied that he'd listen. Lee Jong-san is sure he's curious. After all, everyone sees the consequences of that decision. Stagnant water rots. The presence of an invisible enemy is like a fishbone stuck in your throat. However, once you get used to it, it stops bothering you. Like a dormant volcano, those who have not experienced fear tend to be curious rather than afraid of the enemy. Isn't this the perfect moment to invade and attack? Mudam understood that the Lord was talking about a world where the demonic path reigned. He certainly chose a very worthy successor. The girls are delighted with this carriage. It's so big and comfortable. They could even sleep in it. Do they know how the masters of the Tang clan's Poison Dragon Pavilion are being held captive in the divine cult? He heard that the Tang clan was skilled not only in handling weapons, but also in creating mechanisms. This carriage was created thanks to their skill. It's designed for combat. He received it from the Master of Inner Enlightenment. Yo Sanrin asked if they were just heading straight to Shanxi. It would be great to stop by some tourist spots. So Ryan said they weren't on vacation. They were relaxing after a successful mission. What does Anhwa think about this? Doesn't she want to stop and do some touristy things? The girl replied that she wouldn't mind. So Liang said not to manipulate Anhwa. He should focus only on the matter at hand. Kang Yachi congratulated Sodiang on his appointment as the young leader of the divine cult. The boy was looking for ways to help him. He didn't think such an opportunity would arise so quickly. So Riang thinks it's time for them to get down to business. Gong Yachi said that there are 3 routes from here to Shanxi, but given his cart, he rules out 2 routes that require crossing water. However, the latter route would still require loading the cart onto a ship. Hunan can be reached by land, but to pass through Hubei, he would have to cross the Yangtze River. It would be nice to secure the support of the Yangtze River Fortress. So Riang asked, does he mean that band of bandits? The Yangtze River isn't just a bandit den, but a notorious organization comprising 72 green forest fortresses and 36 Yangtze fortresses. Their scale is so vast that calling them mere bandits is silly. If the forces of their mountain and river fortresses were combined, they would rival an entire fighting sect. Most small and medium-sized sects and clans would be no match for them. So Ryan was wary, wondering if they would cause trouble. For a gangster organization to stay afloat for so long, it needed to strictly adhere to 3 rules. One of them is the impeccable execution of contracts. It guarantees that they will not cause any problems. The problem may arise from something entirely different, namely, the strength of steel blood. Hunan Province, Changsha. There are reports that the Silent Wind Troop, the main force of the Iron Blood Fortress, is secretly heading west from northeastern Zhejiang. This detachment numbers over 300 people. So Ryan asked, what are they up to? It's just his personal opinion, but he believes they're taking the Steelblood Fortress leader's mistress. So Ryan definitely didn't expect this. Concubine Sohohian, mistress of Iron-Blooded Castle. The girl thinks that it would be great to build a small castle here and live. Perhaps the Lord would show her such sincerity. The bodyguard said it was time for them to return inside. The doctor said that even a slight cold was harmful to her. The wind was getting colder, so it was best to avoid walks if possible. The lady felt that Mr. Cha didn't respect her very much. The man assured her she was wrong. He may have forgotten, but the girl is the Lord's concubine. Even though she's a concubine, she's practically his second wife. She doesn't mind such care, but she would be grateful if he would watch his tone. Mr. Cha said he would take this into account. However, Jiangsa is a large city with many people rushing back and forth. There is also the risk of becoming a target for unknown enemies. That's why he's with her, isn't it? Isn't his job to protect her? Besides, she's being watched by secret guards. If she becomes a target, they can handle it, right? Or is she mistaken? The man replied that she was absolutely right. It was just to be on the safe side. Is he really that unsure? If he really wants this, let him wait 3 days. When Mukpunde arrives, Sokokian said she wanted to look around right now. Who knows when else I'll get the chance to visit such a big and dazzling city. Suddenly, a horse-drawn carriage drove past them at high speed. Mr. Cha asked if she was okay. The driver was driving the carriage carelessly in a crowded area. The girl was delighted. Even in the castle, she had never seen such a carriage. Who did it belong to? So Ryan felt a little refreshed after the long journey. Yo Sanrin couldn't understand how he'd stayed longer than them. Was he obsessively clean? But he'd simply dozed off while bathing. They say this is the best tavern in Jiangsa. Aside from the insanely high prices, it's second to none. Anhwa thinks it's less humid and definitely cooler here than Xingyo, so Liang said it rains a lot. But it's not a bad place to live. The girl asked how he knew so much. Had he been to Konam before? The guy replied that he'd simply heard about it from other people. A tavern worker came in and told the boys that we would prepare some food for them. They've been suffering for so long, eating pitiful scraps of dried meat. Today, they can indulge themselves. The boys' eyes lit up at the food. Swallowing their saliva, they thanked Soryang. Yo Sanrin, with her mouth full, asked the captain when they were leaving. They have to hit the road tomorrow. Isn't one day of fun enough for them? Donpil asked if they were heading straight to Bukpak. That was the plan. They'd pass through Anoxen briefly, but there was no point in wasting time. There is no point in staying in one place for long, until they get to Somso. They're in the very center of Chungwol. There might be experts here who can sense Donpil's demonic energy. He also knows how to hide his energy as a guardian, but his demonic energy is still noticeable. It's unlikely, but if they meet Mukpunde, they will probably be interested in Donpilam. Yo Sanrin asked for more. Soryang was shocked that she'd already eaten it all. What kind of digestive system is this? She's a monster in her own right. Let her order whatever she wants. So Ryan suggested that they practice the flesh palm technique together later. He wants to see the limits of her martial arts, and it would be great if they could both learn something from each other. Suddenly there was a door knock. It looked like they had guests. As expected from Honam, they simply chose a tavern, and then such a master appears, and there are another 50 elite guards hidden nearby. It looks like they're escorting someone important. The employee apologized for disturbing them, but someone insists on meeting with them. What should they tell him? Donpil replied that they were having dinner now, so he should tell them to come tomorrow. However, this did not stop Sokokian and his bodyguard. Sokokian apologized. She knew it was impolite, but she was curious and, without thinking, opened the door. Let them accept her apology. The girls noticed that she didn't look guilty at all. There wasn't even a hint of apology in her voice. Their group is still recovering from several days of travel. Donpil doesn't know who she is, but she shouldn't waste their time any longer. So Hoyan asked if the huge cart parked outside the tavern belonged to them. Donpil said yes. She knew it. This is a stunning carriage. At first glance, it looks ordinary, but the exquisite craftsmanship and balanced colors make it truly a masterpiece. That's what true masterpieces are. It's not about ostentatious luxury. It's about hidden elegance. Their carriage is exactly that. Even a masterpiece is worth less than a rag in the hands of someone who doesn't understand its value. Ultimately, she believes a masterpiece's value depends on its owner. Donpil believes that even if it was created with care, any skilled craftsman could have made it. Sohoyan thought so. They didn't understand the true value of this cart. She would have loved to own it. So Ryan couldn't resist asking what Miss meant by that. Yo Sanrin remembered they were on a mission, and she was in charge. The girl asked again what she needed. Sokokian couldn't understand how someone so beautiful could exist in this world. But then again, who cares whether she's pretty or not? The girl has no idea who she's talking to. Sohoyoung decided to get straight to the point. Let Yo Sanrin sell her his carriage. She'd pay any price she named. She doesn't even know what kind of cart it is, does she? And she just wants to buy it? Because she likes the look of it so much? She's a person of noble birth who appreciates quality. Yo Sanrin said she doesn't particularly care about her position. Sokokian insisted she was willing to pay any price. Therefore, she could miss out on a lucrative offer. Yo Sanrin replied that even if she were offered 1 million or 10 million gold coins, she still would not sell. She barges in without permission and demands to sell the cart without even apologizing. What kind of behavior is this? Let her leave immediately. Mr. Cha said she did not need to reveal her identity. Revealing her identity could bring danger, so you need to be careful. They stand awkwardly, but their posture exudes the aura of a true master. At the very least, they are on the same level as him. At worst, they may even be several levels higher. If this master accidentally harbored a grudge against Ironblood Castle, he might harm Madam. Mr. Cha turned around and told Miss that they needed to go. How immature do you have to be behave so rudely? It made her so angry that she might get indigestion. Sokohyun suddenly stopped. She had something else to say. She was terribly impolite. I interrupted a cultured person's meal. As an apology, please allow her to treat them to the most expensive dish here. Yo Sanrin said it wasn't necessary. When the still inexperienced young lady will receive the attention of the future mistress of the iron-blooded castle. These words took the boys by surprise. Well, except for Soryang, it wasn't his turn yet. Soho-hyung considers Yo Sanrin a lucky person. Her family home is nearby. Yo Sanrin heard that the lord of the Ironblood Castle was over 60 years old. He's already an old fart. Isn't she disgusted? Yo Sanrin herself didn't understand how such a thing could escape her lips. The girl apologized and suggested forgetting about the incident. A seething Soho-hyun asked if she even understood what she had just said. Yo Sanrin had already apologized, and besides, Soho-young was no less impudent, so she couldn't resist, so they better forget about it. The girl's mouth watered with anger. Mr. Cha apologized for his mistress's rudeness. They were indeed at fault. However, he cannot forgive them for insulting his master. Yo, Sanrin suddenly broke out in a sweat. Had she really brought trouble upon them? So Ryan stood up and said that she had just made a mistake, but fortunately, not a critical one. Mr. Cha looked at the guy like a monkey who saw a banana for the first time. He wondered who this young man was. He hadn't even noticed his presence. At first glance, he realized that the guy was a high-class master, so Ryan said that it would be nice not to cross paths with him, but since that was how fate had worked out, he would leave him a new scar as a memento. Mr. Cha said that he didn't know who they were, but no one dared to insult his master. So Ryang ordered Dongpil to deal with anyone hiding nearby. The man was shocked by Dongpil's ability to fly like Superman. Suddenly he felt warmth in his hand. He couldn't move it. Something is holding his sword. Could it be the guy's hand that's controlling her? Mr. Cha now clearly understood that the guy was stronger than him and told the lady to run as fast as she could. So Ryan was behind her in that instant. He put the girl to sleep with one press of his fingers. An enraged Mr. Cha swung his sword, but to the guy, it was just a tree. So Ryan stopped his sword with his bare hands. A swift dash, a straight strike, and a three-way rebound. Could it be that the master of the three-tiered ghost blade actually had an apprentice? Mr. Cha's mouth was glued shut for a moment. How did the boy know his teacher? So Ryan replied that he knew his grip and gait. The man had perfectly imitated the crazy old man. He has potential, but his teaching method is lacking. Therefore, it is time for him to go to sleep and tomorrow, with renewed strength, think about his behavior. So Ryan felt that Dongpil had already finished carrying out his order and would arrive soon. The man had already neutralized 50 guards without even releasing his demonic energy. This is a huge savings in strength. It seems Dongpil has definitely improved his technique. He returned and reported that his master's order had been successfully carried out. So Ryang asked how soon he thought the guards would come to their senses. Dongpil estimated it would be in about 2 hours. Yo Sanrin recalled that the matter still ended in a fight, so Ryan said they weren't leaving them alone anyway. It would be better to take them hostage. But what then? Soho-hyun is the concubine of the head of the Steel-Blood Fortress. They can't harm her. So Ryan thinks she's talking nonsense. He didn't mean to do that. They had planned to continue their journey after sunset, but now their plans had changed. They needed to leave immediately. The girls would have liked to stay longer. They could have rested a little longer, so Ryan promised that next time he'd give them a full 3 days rest. But now they need to leave. Guards will be here soon. Dongpil asked where they were heading next. Soryang replied that he had one place in mind. They're heading to the Crimson Cliffs in Hubei. So Ryan wants to meet with the leader of the Hao clan's branch. Ganyachi couldn't understand why the guy took the concubine of the head of the Steel-Blood Fortress and her guard hostage. But why the surprise? He didn't kill them. He just knocked them out for a while. The girls guard them and will immediately notify you if you wake up. So Yang would like to ask him for a favor. Have him deliver a message to the Hua clan leader on behalf of the Hao clan. He'll report that they've captured the concubine of the head of the Steel-Blood Fortress, and if he's interested in her well-being, he should sail to Yichang, Hubei, to meet them. Does he really want to negotiate directly with the Hua clan leader? So Yang replied that he needed to meet with him, but negotiations were out of the question. Then why does he need it? Gonyachi asked anxiously. He believes that there is no point in wasting time on thinking and complex plans. When can you catch bigger fish with this bait? So Ryang plans to lure out the Hua clan chief with the help of these two. 3 days later, Kwangsung is the deputy commander of the Steel-Blood Fortress squad. He yelled at his subordinates. How dare they let them escape? Did they really think they had the right to call themselves guards of the fortress after that? Have they completely lost track of them? Perhaps they fled the tavern in a cart. If they can't track a huge wagon, what's the point of them? He's ready to cut them into tiny pieces right now. The commander himself came and shouted to his deputy to stop. He believes they could have spent half a day unconscious. To neutralize 50 guards of the 3rd squad, you need to be a master of martial arts. Moonhwan believes that Guardian Cha is not so simple and has almost reached the peak of his skill. Either the enemy was so powerful that they had already reached the transformational level, or there were at least 2 attackers, all of them martial artists. The private reported that they had collected statements from the tavern workers. There were 4 of them, 2 men and 2 girls. The men were tall and stocky, and the girls were petite. They arrived in a luxurious carriage but were dressed in simple clothing. Only 1 man was armed, and the workers also emphasized the extraordinary beauty of the girl. The lady went to them herself. It turns out, this wasn't a planned kidnapping. She comes from a poor clan and has lived in luxury for only 3 years. Lacking a proper upbringing and with a penchant for expensive things, she could very well have taken an interest in their carriage. Apart from the blue squad in the blue square, which of the allied clans is closest to the fortress? The deputy replied, the Shinquan clan. Have him send a message to the Shinquan clan leader. They need to contact the nearest people and check the entire Changsha territory with them, and they will head north. They say the cart arrived from the south. If they were heading east or west, they wouldn't have stopped in Changsha. They're most likely heading north. According to the report, the lady disappeared under the command of the deputy. Let him feel his punishment to the fullest extent. They must find the lady no later than 15 days, no matter what. And if they can't, then they will all be forced to accept death at the hands of the head of the fortress. Now the guys stopped at the red cliffs of Hubei. Yosunri asked when the people from the fortress would arrive, so Ryang replied that he didn't know. Gongyachi said that it would take at least half a day. Does the guy really want to take the leader of the Mount Hua sect hostage? The Mount Hua sect is one of the 9 great sects. Their swordsmanship is comparable to the Wudong sect. Taking the leader of such a sect hostage and capturing someone like him or the mistress of the leader of the Steel Blood Fortress are very different problems. Does he really understand what he's doing? So Liang replied that, of course, it was a deliberate decision. He realizes that he has caused a lot of trouble in the past by not thinking ahead, but not this time. In that case, she shouldn't question him, to avoid ending up like his mistress. However, Soryang actually understands everything, considering where she comes from. This is just a minor incident. Let him ignore it. Yo Sanrin said that he is the only one who calls something like this insignificant. Now that they have time, maybe they could practice? It looks like she should have stayed on the cart. A martial arts master from the highest demon realm offers her his help and training. Instead, she should be on her knees and crying with gratitude. Yo Sanrin was glad to hear this from him. Soryang suggested she work up a good sweat and board the boat with renewed vigor. However, she was drenched in sweat and didn't feel at all rested. So Liang said she could attack first. Without thinking twice, the girl decided to try and took off her outerwear. So Ryang said that she shouldn't take it so lightly. He didn't expect such a fast and powerful attack from her at all. Yo Sanrin was hiding such a technique? The girl is very skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Even her brother couldn't match her in such strikes. Her chi isn't at all refined, but her creativity and reflexes are astounding. So Ryan decided to demonstrate his technique, but the girl quickly reacted and dodged. It might not have been a lightning-fast fist, but she still dodged it. Yo Sanrin was much better than he imagined. It has enormous and powerful cold energy. The internal energy it releases freezes the moist air, but she still has no chance against him. So Ryan said that was enough. Yo Sanrin thought the guy wanted to sweat a ton. It was just a warm-up. The young master asked why she hid her technique. The girl replied that she had never hidden it. Maybe he had been blind before? Where did she learn this fighting technique? It's like the pinnacle of striking mastery. Yo Sanrin said she didn't need his flattery. But still, how did the guys from the Animal Palace manage to catch her? It's just a combination of little things she learned. Nothing surprising about that. She used techniques she'd learned as a child. It wasn't something a normal person could do. Considering she didn't hesitate at all when striking, he had complete confidence in his attacks. Well, the hand technique she used when she was under hypnosis was also amazing. Yo Sanrin said that if that was all, then she would go and rest. So Ryan was going to teach her a thing or two about self-defense, but apparently that wasn't necessary. But why should he teach her martial arts? If Soryang was supposed to be her guard and protect her no matter what, so Ryan couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. She really could be useful. It is the Lord of the River's water fortress, ranking second among the 36 fortresses on the Yangtze River. The fortress, occupying the first position, dominates the entire Yangtze River. They sent their best team. So Ryan thanked the guy for the service, the commander of the river lordship, the leader of the water fortress, the flying heavenly water ghost, Yen Yu. The man didn't have time to contact Gonyachi because he was busy. Maybe they could meet up for a drink sometime. The guy said that he wouldn't refuse. It would be an honor for him. Yan Yu asked if they were his guests. So Ryan nodded and said it was his entire group. 2 men and a pretty young lady can be considered a plus. The man thinks that Yo Sanrin is beautiful enough to use as a weapon. Ganyachi asked what he was talking about. The man apologized. It's just the first time he's seen someone so beautiful. Yan Yu is here because he was told that they are very important guests, but he still doesn't know who they are. Ganyachi replied that their identities would be kept secret. He wrote this in a letter. That's true, but he changed his mind. He needs to know who they are. The man has been doing this for 32 years, and at first glance he can tell who is a rowdy and who is not. So Ryan said that if he couldn't handle it, he would simply say that he wasn't taking the job. Why ask who they are? Is he going to do it or not? Yan Yu would like to display the manners of a vice leader, but if he insists on this behavior, then we leave them no choice. So Ryan smiled and asked how long he could hold his breath. Yan Yu didn't understand what the guy meant. The young master decided to test the commander's lungs for endurance. Gongyachi asked the master what he had just done. Yan Yu was lying unconscious. The guy worked hard to get him here. So Ryan said he's still nothing more than a bandit, but he's second in command on the Yangtze River. While they won't try to fight him directly, they can use their influence to prevent them from crossing the river. If they do this, they will have to deal not only with the Ice Palace, but also with the divine cult of the heavenly demon. Gongyachi thought he was trying to hide his identity, so Ryang replied that he was. But that didn't mean he was trying to hide his identity. The guy couldn't understand why he had to complicate things, but just one look from Soryang made him understand that he should calm his ardor. Gongyachi apologized. He crossed the line. Let him not hold a grudge against him. So Ryang knows it would be a lot easier if he just tucked his tail between his legs like a dog this time. He can do it if necessary. After all, it's not difficult at all. The problem is whether they will do it when it is not necessary. So Ryang has a very high opinion of Gongyachi. Even though they've only met a few times, he knows how to keep track of everything possible in his position and is able to behave accordingly depending on the specific situation. It's hard to find people like Gongyachi. But let him remember that if he supports him, they need not his best qualities, but the very best. Of course, their mood and energy are taken into account. They are heading to battle the leader of the Manhwa sect. Later, they will also have to fight the righteous heavenly alliance. He doesn't want unnecessary things like this to take up his time, and he doesn't want to deal with enemies while he's in a bad mood. Not everything can be done perfectly, but the first part of the plan should work. So Ryan has already proven his worth as a young leader. Now it was his turn to get them to Ichang as soon as he could, and he must support them to the best of his ability as they fought the righteous heavenly alliance. Gongyachi admitted he was wrong and offered his sincere apologies. Let him rest for now. He'll take care of it. The young leader wasn't angry at Yan Yu. He was angry at him. He couldn't make the same mistake twice. Anhwa informed the master that their hostages had woken up. So Ryan said that in that case, they needed to check on their precious guests. He didn't hit her so hard. He didn't expect that they would sleep for 4 days. Mr. Cha told the boy not to look at her with his damaged eyes. Tell him to lower his head. So Ryan looked at the man and said that she wasn't even the cult leader's wife. So Kokian shouted that he was worse than a beast. Let him let her go right now. Why did he have to tie her up if he was going to untie her at her first request? Doesn't the guy know who she is? The girl claimed she was from the Great Steel Fortress. So Ryan knows she's a beast. How dare he speak to her in such a tone? The young master doesn't care about her status. He only wants to say one thing. If she raises her voice again, he will cut out all the flesh on her body. After these words, the girl simply lost consciousness. For such a timid cat, she still knows how to keep her mouth shut. Mr. Cha said he should let them go. Otherwise, he would make an enemy in the Bloodsteel Fortress. A fate worse than death awaited him. So Ryan thinks he's had enough of this nonsense. He's not going to let them go. They're going to meet the leader of the Mount Hua sect. He'll hand them over to him. Which organization does the Steel Blood Fortress fear most? The Righteous Celestial Alliance? But come to think of it, it's also part of the Steel Blood Fortress. Given the relationship, what does he think will happen if they fall into the hands of the Mount Hua sect leader? The man believes that he does not realize what he is doing now. If she's handed over to the Mount Hua sect, a war might break out. Does the boy know about this? Mr. Cha guarantees he won't be able to handle this situation. He doesn't understand what he's done because he's young. But if war breaks out, all of Zhongyan will turn into a bloodbath. But suddenly, for a moment, a light bulb went off in the man's head. The demonic cult would then be the winner. Could he be from a demonic cult? So Ryan asked if there was something wrong with him. If that's what he thinks, then thank him. They have a long way to go. He is sure that it is stuffy here, but he should be patient if he does not want the journey to be painful north of Hunan province. The deputy reported to the commander that he had found them. The crew's tracks point to a red cliff. Given the tracks and witnesses, they must be about 2 days' journey from here. Then they must be 100 or more kilometers away. Moonwan is glad they're not too far away. They'll be leaving in half an hour and won't be resting during the journey. So let them rest now while they can. Also, let the vice leader contact the fortress on the Yangtze River. If they headed toward the red cliff, it's likely they were traveling by water. If they were heading north or west, they were sailing on a ship. Let him convey the message so they can be found, no matter what. The Yangtze River Fortress knows that if they don't do their job properly, they'll have to face the wrath of the Bloodsteel Fortress. They will catch them no matter what. What a formidable man. Gong Yachi said that Sodiang was the commander of the guards and that this man would take them to Yichang. Yanyu swore by the river god Hebo that he would fulfill his contract. In that case, they need to hit the road immediately. So Ryan has crossed this river many times as the king of assassins, but he still feels surprised. He believes that there is several times more water. Yosanrin reported that everything was going quite well. The guy said there had been a slight delay, but now they could just rest until they got to Yichang. But can these two be left like this? So Ryang believes nothing will happen to them. They haven't eaten anything for 5 days. They drink water, but still, they prefer not to eat. Yosanrin shared her experiences with abductions. She ate well and lived in the beast's palace and the heavenly demon's divine palace. So Ryang thinks she just likes to eat. There's been something strange going on between them lately. A private saw an unusual bird. He asked his commander, "Is it the bird with the scarlet crest?" The bird rushed towards the ship at high speed. She landed on his hand. The boys noticed that she had a message. Commander Yan Yu read it and froze in place. Now he knew who these people really were. Yan Yu ordered everyone to draw their weapons. There were imposters on board. With a dissatisfied face, Yan Yu asked the guy, "Didn't he say that he was the commander of the guard?" So Ryan replied, "That was exactly it. Is there a problem?" Yan Yu apologized and said that he would have to terminate their contract. The young leader thought so. Everything was going too well. An order came from the higher authorities to find a group of 2 women and 2 men riding in a luxury carriage. Yosanrin said it wasn't them. There were 3 men and 3 women. Yan Yu assumes that the Steelblood Fortress leader's mistress and her guards are there. So they kidnapped the mistress of the leader of the Steelblood Fortress. Are they completely crazy? So Ryan asked, do they want to fight? The orders of the superiors are unquestionable. Fulfilling this contract could damage all 36 fortresses on the Yangtze River. But what happened to his promise? Yan Yu said that no contract takes precedence over an order. It's a complete mess. But it was probably meant to be. It may have been an order, but Gong Yachi of the House sect personally brokered this agreement. If they behaved well, no one would be harmed. So Ryan refused. They had to get to Aichan, and to do that, he needed them. Yan Yu said that they couldn't help them no matter how much they asked. However, Sodiang does not ask him, but orders him. Yan Yu told his men to prepare for battle. The man realizes that he is a very skilled martial artist. However, there are very few martial artists who can handle people on a ship on the Yangtze River. Fighting on a ship on water is very different from fighting on land. Martial artists who have mastered water arts are much better at fighting on a ship. This fight is definitely doable. So Ryan struck his chi between them. Everyone was shocked by its power. He won't repeat it. Let them launch the ship immediately. Hoyo-sung calls it the King of Kills. Isn't this the carriage the young leader kept secret, only to reveal it at the Pazun Festival this year? Nothing escapes the chief strategist's eye. That much was immediately clear. However, the cult leader still won't be surprised. He's not one to be surprised by such things. Giving it to the young cult leader might have been the best choice. The leader of the Manhwa sect seems to have made a decision. This is no easy task. Hong Sanjia has always been a chatterbox. His martial arts are strong, but he's too stubborn to be considered a true Taoist. He's proud, arrogant to the extreme, according to others. The previous leader most likely had poor judgment. The strategist replied that the former sect leader resigned because of Hong Sanja. Despite his cruel and arrogant nature, Hong Sanja became a leader because he knew how to build influence. He's hardly considered politically intelligent, but surprisingly, he's good at managing power. Like a street gang boss, you might say. With this influence, he ousted the former leader of the fraction, but he doesn't know whether any actual blood was spilled. So-young Shim finds this journey impressive. Most wouldn't dare attempt it. Murdering fellow cult members is an unforgivable sin for the Orthodox Marine. But the fact that it's possible speaks to how corrupt Orthodox sects have become. But why did the cult leader curtail their external operations? It is said that 1 tells 10. If someone like him leads Manhwa, then the 9 sects and 5 great houses should be considered to have already dissolved. Sometimes it's annoying. If the cult leader had acted, he could have wiped them all out in one blow. The strategist asked if she was absolutely certain of this. Perhaps she was viewing the order of things incorrectly. Did the young tiger become king of the jungle first? Or did the house-sized dragon come out first? Did the tiger cause the disappearance of predators and the decay of the jungle? Or was it because the dragon was waiting for the snake to become venomous? The girl asked if he assumed that the cult leader had deliberately reduced his external activities. Who among them can understand the thoughts of the cult leader? But the fact remains, after his departure, the Orthodox Marine began to die. And now that the young leader has set out on his journey, it becomes more interesting. Security reported that an urgent message had arrived from the Hunan branch. It's as if everything is on cue. What will happen this time? In the Central Plains, everything is already in limbo. The general strategist burst into laughter throughout the entire cult. He had truly underestimated the young cult leader. He thought the guy would lay low in the Central Plains, but he raged like a madman, even more pompously. So Yunshim asked, what exactly happened? So Ryan kidnapped the concubine of the Lord of the Steel Blood Fortress and summoned the leader of Mount Hua to Yichang. Could this be another incident like this? Working with a young cult leader will never be boring. No more words. Let them quickly take the helm. Yan Yu was shocked. He was a master at the pinnacle, and fully mature at that. How was that even possible at his age? The man said they wouldn't give in to threats. He couldn't kill them anyway. Without them, the boy wouldn't get to Yichang anyway. The Yangtze River is dangerous, and its currents are strong. He came knowing that only they could navigate it, didn't he? So Ryan said there were ways to make him cooperate without killing him, but he prefers not to use them. So what will he choose? Even if Sodyang refuses payment and throws them overboard, he will still die at the hands of the Bloodsteel Fortress. Yan Yu shouted for everyone to attack, but when he turned around, he saw that everyone was frozen in place. A red mist emanating from his body engulfed the ship. Everyone was paralyzed with fear. So Ryan said he respected his choice. Is he really going to die here? Or head to Yichang? With the last of his strength, Yan Yu said that he was ready to fulfill his agreement. So Ryan injected his demonic energy into their bodies. They won't be able to think rationally. They won't be able to think about anything else for at least half a day. But just in case, let Donpil keep a close eye on them. He needs to go. But where was he going? So Ryan replied that he needed to cut off their pursuit. They're still in the middle of the Yangtze. The guy controls his demonic aura. No one will notice. Donpil understood that the gentleman meant that no one recognized her. He's going to exterminate the Mukpung squad. Meanwhile, in Shanxi, Mount Hua, a message arrived for the Hong Sanja clan leader. He was surprised to learn that there was some concubine of the lord of the fortress. He remembered that the depraved old man had taken a concubine 3 years ago. His assistant had heard that he loved her very much. She was 3 times his age, still a young girl. But how reliable is this information? It's encrypted by the Hao clan. They reek of corruption, but their intelligence is second only to the Beggars Union. But who is this cocky freak who summoned the sect leader all the way to Yichan? Hong Sanja believes it's definitely not someone from the Righteous Heavenly Alliance. If it were, they would be acting in the interests of the faction, not suggesting their surrender. The assistant doesn't think it's a demonic cult. It could be the Bloodsteel Fortress itself. The leader believes that can't be ruled out either. Perhaps his wife sent someone to kidnap her. A beautiful concubine would be a ring in her side. It's not far, and preparations have already been made. They should go. The leader ordered him to summon the wielder of the Plum Blossom Sword, Li Gujo. The fortress owner's concubine. This is starting to get interesting. This could be the perfect chance to raise the Montahua name again. The boat of the chief of the Habeck Water Fortress, Yan Yu, set out a day ago with a luxurious, opulent 4-wheeled carriage on board. Commander Moon Huan asked if the kidnappers were heading to Yichang, Hubei? That's right. All the water fortress's operations are reported to the Great Leader. Since he confirmed it, it must be true. The commander thanked Sagak for his work. The man asked if his men were okay. They look quite tired. They haven't rested since arriving here. Half a day's rest should be enough to recover. The deputy reported that they had received a message from the Hubei branch. They would be stationing iron swords near Yichang. Suddenly, Moonwan noticed a red light ahead. The commander shouted to Mukpeng's unit to prepare for battle. The man could not understand where they were being attacked from. The Yangtze River suddenly began to freeze, so Ryan finally found him. Commander Moonhwan asked who the hell he was. Those who were about to die shouldn't care about this at all. Would it help if Sodiang said he was his Death Reaper? The man reacted quickly and drew his sword to strike first, so Ryan immediately reflected the shockwave with his blade. He managed to dispel the blade's energy and cause chaos on the ship. He stood before them as a king who must announce his decree. So Ryan said that there were 300 soldiers from the Silent Wind Detachment and 300 river pirates, making a total of 600. Moonwan was shocked. How did the guy know their exact number? So Ryan noticed that the entire Silent Wind squad had settled on board. 2 more ships follow them on either side. That's quite a large force. Moonwan sensed demonic energy. Could this guy be a follower of the divine cult of the heavenly demon? So Ryan praised the man for his vigilance and asked if he was the commander of the Silent Wind squad. The soldiers were in a panic. Some thought the guy was one of those who sacrifice mere mortals and devour their hearts. So Ryan said they're all stupid. They all just say stereotypical things. Do they always say whatever comes to mind? The daredevil asked if he was the cult bastard who kidnapped the lady. Before the man could even bark, the energy of Sodiang's blade fell upon him. The young gentleman thinks that for a pathetic pirate, he talks too much. Did they really decide to clash with them because they fear the wrath of the Fortress of Steel Blood? So Ryan has already dealt with 36 fortresses. The squad leader shouted for everyone to attack. The soldiers took out their weapons and ran to attack with confident faces. However, they didn't know who they were dealing with, so Ryan took them out in a second. Moonwan's mouth went dry. He was shocked by the boy's speed. His walking technique surpassed anything he knew. He ordered the squad to attack all together, so Ryan realized it would be difficult for him to deploy here. Such an attack could also hit their allies. However, they aimed at him with perfect accuracy. So Ryan turned around and threw some wood on the fire. As expected from the elite squad of the Steel Blood Fortress, backstabbing isn't exactly commendable. Moonwan's testicle was broken. How could he dispel the blade's energy with just a wave of his hand? The victim shouted, "What kind of magic is So Ryan using? He's nothing more than a cult fanatic and worse than the beast itself." So Ryan swung his sharp sword and silenced him. This chatter angered him. His mood has completely soured. He doubts he'll feel any better after killing them all at once. So Ryang thinks it's time to have some fun. The boys heard a loud explosion. Donpil couldn't figure out what it was. Anwa started to worry. Will the master be okay? Donpil replied that she shouldn't worry so much. With his strength, he wouldn't lose to anyone. Suddenly the man felt that someone was sneaking up on them. Dongpil drew his sword and ordered Yan Yu to remain where he was. He was surprised that he had regained consciousness so quickly. If he tries to do anything, he risks condemning everyone to death. Yan Yu replied that he didn't want to fight them. He just wanted to know who they were. Donpil said their contract clearly stated that identities must remain confidential. Yan Yu believes he should know. The man sensed demonic energy from his commander. They are all from the divine cult of the heavenly demon, aren't they? Donpil replied that he had better not try to find out anything if he wanted to live. Yan Yu couldn't understand. The most terrible organization in the world of martial artists, fading into the shadows 30 years ago. That same divine cult of the heavenly demon. Once upon a time, this cult, which opened the gates straight to the underworld, appeared on the territory of Jin Yuan, and no other similar organization could compare to it in power. Meanwhile, Sodiang was enjoying himself as best he could. The party was in full swing. Those who felt ill decided to dive into the sea without life jackets. Moonhwan was completely at a loss. He believed Sodiang was most likely at the peak of his cultivation. Over 80% of his men had already been defeated. If they continue this battle, they will have to say goodbye to their lives. Moonwan ordered the vice captain to prepare the cannons. He replied that they could not fire the cannons because their allies were still on board. Moonwan said he'd go there himself and corner the bastard. Let him follow orders. So Ryan noticed there were still about 50 soldiers left. He'd already expended a fair amount of internal energy. It was time to end the party. Suddenly, the guy felt that someone was trying to attack him from behind. He turned sharply and immediately reacted to his blow. So Ryan was surprised to see the commander of the Silent Wind Squad still alive. His power is impressive. It would be a great mistake if the guy killed him now. He obviously has little experience in water combat, but even so, he maintains his balance very well. Moonhwan turned and shouted to the squad to fire the cannons. Our guy didn't expect this at all. We'll have to call the Terminator. These toy guns couldn't break, so Riang and he remained on the ship. Moonhwan gathered all his power into his blade and attacked him from behind. But something went wrong. There wasn't a single scratch on So Ryan. It was a devastating attack. They even sacrificed their own allies, but still couldn't even touch him. Is he really the one who cannot be broken? Even by the forces of an entire squad and hundreds of river bandits? Moonhwan decided to ask who he was. So Riang replied that for someone about to die, he was quite intriguing. Is he a person from the divine cult of the heavenly demon? So Ryan, without thinking twice, replied that he hadn't yet. Moonhwan didn't understand what the guy meant. So Ryan charged his fist with demonic energy and sent Commander Moonhwan to heaven. For now, he can call him Yama. For reference, Yama is the Hindu god of death and justice. Meanwhile, in Hubei Yichang, the Divine River Pavilion, the assistant informed Mr. Gong Yachi that the special guests of the divine cult and a couple of other people had descended to Yichang Harbor and had started a battle with the Steel Blade Demon. It ended with all the Steel Blade Demons being killed. They also dealt with 150 people of the Ghost Valley Squad. There were only 200 of them. Those who managed to survive did not follow the special guests and remained in the south. Gong Yachi doubts the elite squad of the Steel Blood Fortress would have allowed themselves to retreat. What were they planning? Security came in with breaking news. 2 Steel Blood Fortress hideouts have been breached. One is in the very center of Hubei, the other is in the south. And now, those considered the fortress's main enemies are heading for both of these points. Gong Yachi believes that the remaining 50 of the Ghost Valley squad are currently heading towards the shelter. The guard said he thought so too. But who could have revealed such information? Gong Yachi believes this was done deliberately, so that the survivors would lead them to the shelter. Aside from the Hao clan, the only organization capable of attacking the people of the fortress could only be the divine cult of the heavenly demon, a man destined to become the most powerful heavenly demon in history. The cult will do everything in its power to protect him. Information is a far more deadly weapon than the battles warriors are accustomed to. The divine cult of the heavenly demon secretly disseminated information to lure out the Bloodsteel fortresses. The cult's intelligence forces are impressive in their abilities. The people of the Steel Blood Fortress are unable to concentrate on the special guests. Let them send 70% of the informants previously sent to the Steel Blood Fortress to the Righteous Heavenly Alliance. The general strategist's ear began to itch sharply. It seemed someone was gossiping about him. Too much lately. He hadn't picked his ear in so long that he was shocked by the amount of swamp mud. The guards reported that the young leader had successfully reached the Divine River Pavilion in Yichang. He replied that this was great news. So far, everything was going smoothly. Hoyo-sung has heard of Gong Yachi. He possesses exceptional abilities and is highly valued by the Hao clan. The boy turned out to be even more talented than he thought. The false information that was spread and caused confusion within the Righteous Heavenly Alliance, as well as the information gathered to ensure the young master's safety. It will take at least a week for the Righteous Celestial Alliance to figure out which of these is actually true. To bring such a complex plan to fruition, the guy deserves the title of genius. The strategist is unsure whether he could take such a desperate step, but on the one hand, of course he could, since he is the main genius. Meanwhile, in the open sea, the fog became so thick that you couldn't even see anything in front of you. The man noticed something strange in the water. It looked like the outline of a person. They were all dead. The crew couldn't count how many there were. And who could have done this to them? They thought it was a monster. Some believe that the Yangtze River Dragon became enraged and sent a demon to deal with them. A ferocious demon born from the wrath of the water god, the Dragon King. Rumors of the dragon who had summoned the pit began to spread with incredible speed. 3 days later, in Hubei, Yichang, Divine River Pavilion. It was early morning, and Anhwa was warming up before a productive workday. Suddenly, she noticed the young gentleman. It was still so early, and he was already hard at work. The girl decided that she shouldn't distract him, and quietly went about her business. So Ryan said that she shouldn't try so hard. He felt her presence. Anhwa began to apologize in every way. The young gentleman said that was unnecessary and that he could come and sit next to her. So Ryan checked her pulse and praised her for diligently developing the flow of internal energy. He had already felt earlier that Anhwa was indeed very talented, so Young suggested she seriously study martial arts. The girl was shocked by this proposal. The young master said anyone could do it. Anhwa thinks he'd only be wasting his precious time. So Ryong replied that her training wouldn't take long, so there was no need to worry. Anhwa wanted to know the reason for such a desire. The guy said that the day might come when he wouldn't be able to protect her. She would have to take care of her own safety. Learning martial arts in their time is more of a necessity than a personal choice. Is it really what she wants? If not, she shouldn't have to overcome her own self-consciousness. Anhwa made it clear that she wanted to learn martial arts, not only because she wants to become stronger, but also because she doesn't want to remain a burden to him. She also wants to be useful. So Ryong replied that this would not happen. If Anhwa wants to master martial arts to survive in this world, he will gladly teach her. But if she does this to help him in the future, then there is no need for it. She's already done so much for him. So Ryong never said it, but she has no idea how useful she is to him, and that's why he doesn't want the girl to forget her role. She's different from Donpil. His role is to be a guardian and protector. Anhwa should do her duties. There is no need to overload herself. The success of an organization depends on all its members being in their places and fulfilling their roles. There might come a day when he needs her help as a master, but until then, Anhwa must focus on her life and self-defense. If he forgets his role, it will cause problems for the organization. The girl felt a slight disappointment. Anhwa said that if this is what the young master wants, then she is obliged to do everything. She will take up martial arts so that she doesn't have to bother him unnecessarily. So Ryong was happy and thanked Anhwa for her understanding. Meanwhile, Yo-Sun-rin woke up. She didn't really like sleeping in this place. The girl asked Donpil what the young gentleman was doing there at this time. The man replied that So-ryong was teaching Anhwa martial arts. Yo-Sun-rin noticed that yin energy was involved. Perhaps it would be beneficial for her. Donpil said it wasn't just something beneficial. This is the Yin Moon Demonic Mastery, one of the 10 greatest techniques of the cult. Even though Anhwa's internal energy is transformed into the demonic lunar yin, its power does not fade at all. The girl believes that Anhwa does not need the young master's help. Apparently, she truly cultivated her inner energy with meticulous consistency. Donpil said he thought so too. He'd never encountered such a pure flow. Anhwa is very talented. Donpil was surprised. Yo-Sun-rin had managed to spot something he'd previously overlooked. While her skill level isn't particularly high, she has excellent instincts. The world is truly full of talented people, and he can see the true value of everyone around him. Half a day later, the boys set out. The girls asked if the Hao clan leader wouldn't be traveling with them, so Ryan replied that he would meet them at the palace, where a meeting with the head of the Hua clan was scheduled. The guy doubts that he will come, but if he does decide, he will show Hong Sanjia the respect he deserves. A true clan of ancient martial arts would have immediately rejected his offer, and so would a person with a conscience. Yun-Sun-rin asked if he'd come with someone. In that case, respect would be out of the question. However, So-ryong had never acted as an enslaver. He's genuinely curious how many people he took with him to their meetings. If there are a couple of people, this means that despite his own stupidity, he is still able to understand the consequences of breaking agreements. And if it turns out that he brings a whole detachment, then he won't have to feel guilty for what he did. The head of the Hua clan, Hong Sanjia, told the young leader that he had taken the choice of location very seriously. However, Gunyachi believes that things aren't going so well for welcoming such an honored guest. He summoned him in a hurry and didn't have time to organize everything properly, so he apologizes. Hong Sanjia said that the guy showed worthy hospitality, and he liked the aroma that was in the air. His assistant also noticed that the aroma in the air was indeed pleasant. Gong Yachi said he could give them their incense sticks. They could stow them in his wagon. The journey was long, and they were likely all tired, but the meeting should be a success. Hong Sang-ju was pleased to meet such an attentive person. From now on, he would try to become his frequent guest. However, the guy knows that's the problem. This old fart is so thirsty for wealth and luxury that even if he had to choose between the smell of fresh grass and incense, he'd choose the latter. He just wants to avoid appearing like a beggar in the eyes of others. Someone like him doesn't deserve the title of Master of Ancient Martial Arts. He's just a pathetic parody. Gongyachi is confident that the other heads of the 9 great clans are no better than him. Hong Sanju knows that the guy occupies a very high position in the Hao clan, and those who initiated this meeting must be high-ranking officials since he's meeting him on their behalf. Could he reveal their names? Gongyachi apologized and said they were honored guests of their clan. He couldn't reveal their identities to outsiders. He counted on their understanding. The assistant said the young gentleman had already helped them without this and suggested they drop the matter. Their relationship with the Hao clan could bring them real success in the future. In any case, they will definitely apologize later for their rudeness. Gongyachi smiled and said the assistant was right. But why would he apologize? Strange logic, he thought. This is the Plum Blossom Blade Squad, the pride of the Hua clan. It seems they came prepared. By dragging these guys along with him, he left the clan practically defenseless. And this wouldn't have been a problem if the Hua clan leaders had been a little more calm. So Ryang understands that the clan leader doesn't necessarily need to understand military strategy. But is it really possible to be that brainless? The private didn't hear what So Ryan said and asked him to repeat it. Donpil told the boy to go and tell the chief that they had arrived. The private got angry and asked again what So Ryan said about their leader. Donpil repeated that he needed to go and report their arrival. The man told him to stay put and not move. Who gave So Ryan the right to insult their leader? They won't pass until they apologize for what they said. The young gentleman smiled and said it was even easier that way. He didn't understand who he was talking to. So Ryang turned around and told Dongpil that they were leaving. They had no business here. Now they can tell their leader that due to the actions of the thick-headed soldiers of the Plum Blossom Blade Detachment, the meeting will not take place. A bunch of idiots who can't keep their mouths shut and have no idea how to greet important guests have dramatically changed the political situation in the world. He'd better contact the head of the Zhongnan cult. He might just pass it on. Suddenly, someone shouted for them to wait. They'd come all this way and now they were just leaving without even trying to meet the clan leader? Dungpil felt an inner energy radiating from his voice. He was at the peak of his skill. The man admitted that they had been rude, but he is confident that they do not want to complicate an already difficult situation. So he suggests pretending that this conversation never happened. So Ryan was surprised. That is, he was able to admit that their private was rude, but lacked the brains to apologize. When a student misbehaves, the teacher should take full responsibility, but he's in no hurry to apologize to us. He doesn't realize the seriousness of the situation and treats it as a simple argument. So Ryang asked, "He's not the clan leader, is he?" The man replied that his name was Kwang Sanja, and the boy had likely heard of him, but the young master immediately denied it. The heart began to beat faster. The man tolerated his guest as best he could. He said it didn't matter now. So Yang replied that, of course, he was expecting an apology. Kwan Sanja believes this is the boy's first time at such a meeting. He didn't expect such bold words from a boy not yet 30. But they have no choice. The advantage is now in their favor. The man turned to his student and said that he had already asked him several times to deal with his anger. He should apologize immediately. The boy stepped out of line to pay his respects and ask for forgiveness. So Ryan asked him, what is he asking him for forgiveness for? The man who was offended by his words was not him, but Donpil. Let him bow his head, admit his guilt, and ask for forgiveness. Then, it can truly be called an apology. Doesn't the Hua clan teach its students even the most basic rules of conduct? What a nightmare. Kwan Sanja ordered the boy to calm down and apologize as ordered. If he doesn't do this, he will take the blade from him. He regrets being rude and overstepping his bounds. Therefore, he apologizes. Dongpil accepted his apology. Kwan Sanja hopes that this is the end of the conflict. So Ryan smiled and replied that it wasn't ideal, but it was acceptable. Now let them take him to their leader. He made the Hua clan's followers grovel and apologize to him? Kwan Sancha will definitely repay this debt. They will all die immediately after this meeting. These walls will become their grave. Hong Sang-ju was surprised to see Soryang for the first time. He was just a boy, not even 30. The young master felt the energy around him was significantly different from the previous leader. His martial arts skills were also top-notch, perfect for a clan leader. Hong Sang-ju said the young master was causing a huge fuss. He had no manners at all. However, the boy replied that he didn't think so. If this conflict hadn't happened, he would have been too kind to him, but now he sees no point in it. It's time for them to stop this meeting and go their separate ways. Hong Sang-ju was surprised at how the boy dared speak to him in such a tone. Who was he, anyway? So Ryang replied that it was none of his business. They could get straight to the point. The boss is about to lose his patience. As Sodiang mentioned earlier, they're in the hands of the Steel Blood Fortress's leader's concubine, as well as her guard, but he still doubts their value to the fortress. Perhaps he's willing to ransom them? Hong Sang-ju said the guy was quite funny. He thought Sodiang would just hand them over to him. Doesn't this man know what the word negotiation means? Did he think they'd just hand over their hostages for free? How naive. Hong Sang-ju thinks the only naive one here is the guy. The Hua clan is at the top of the 9 great clans, and he's the head of this clan. How dare he offer ransom for them? Let him know his place. For those who want tea, the water has boiled. So Ryan stood up casually and replied that it was he who didn't know his place. Meanwhile, Donpil guarded his prisoners at the fortress gates. He hoped Sodiang was okay. The guy couldn't use demonic energy, otherwise they'd be discovered immediately. He had a bad feeling about this. The foolish student approached him. He believed that Dongpil had mastered many techniques, but it wouldn't hurt for him to learn the rules of good conduct. That should suit him. Its owner must have plenty of money to have bought himself such a decent sword. But the poor weapon is shedding tears, having fallen into such useless hands. Donpil was surprised. Did all the followers of the ancient mastery behave like this? They're clearly close to the peak of perfection, but they lack simple discipline. They're now more like a gang of street thugs. The guy was really irritated by Donpil's gaze. It was as if he thought he was better than them. The upstart decided to give him some advice. Martial arts aren't just fantasy. They put in the effort and learn to work together, but not everyone can do it. If he keeps this up, he'll die. That's the world of martial arts. Let him remember that. Yo San-rin got out of the carriage and asked who was here, barely holding on, trying not to fall. Donpil was shocked, wondering why she had come out. The girl replied that they had made her angry. They're so intent on insulting him, flaunting their useless skills, convinced they're better than everyone else. How can she sit silently and listen to such nonsense? Dongpil asked them not to make the already difficult situation worse. Yo Sun-rin understood this, but she also refused to tolerate their bullying. The student replied that he did not know who they were, but didn't they themselves feel that they had already gone too far? After all, they had just insulted them. Yo San-rin replied that it wasn't an insult, but simply the truth. The guy assumed she was the apprentice of a reputable master, but lacked experience herself. So it would be better to let them listen to the Hua clan. Yo San-rin immediately asked how experienced he was that he decided to teach. Does he even know who's standing in front of him now? Does he know her name, what organization she belongs to, and where she's from? On what basis did he offer to judge her experience and the strength of the Ma Guardian if he didn't possess the gift of foresight? And if he did, and even such a gift was taught in the clans, then she was prepared to accept defeat in this argument. The guy is very polite and courteous with the higher-ups, but arrogant in front of those whom he considered to be of a lower rank than himself. Of course, social status plays a big role, but is this behavior befitting of a martial arts master? Regardless of status, every human life is important and valuable, because all life originates from nature and is an integral part of it. As for people, there should be no superior or inferior, no man or woman, no heaven or hell. They'll understand this a little later, while they're still far from the basic principles of the teaching. They need to read the Tao Te Ching. They don't even deserve to be called martial artists. After these words, the guy felt something squeeze between his legs. How dare she? Yo San-rin told him to watch his mouth. Was he only talking so carelessly because he was sure his Hua clan would stand up for them? How could some worthless swordsman from some Hua clan dare to offend the dignity of the daughter of the Lord of the Ice Palace? The Hua clan is at the head of the 9 great clans, and he is the head of this greatest clan. So how dare Sodiang offer to ransom the hostages? The Hua clan may be superior to the other 9 great clans, but only when it comes to swordsmanship. Now they're talking about martial arts in general. And now one is trying to intimidate the other, using power as a cover. Hong Sang-ju couldn't believe his eyes. How could the boy even open his mouth under the purple mist? How did he manage to withstand the pressure of divine qi? He had never encountered such a young talent with such power. So Ryan said that the old man was completely deaf and it was very difficult to get through to him. Hong Sang-ju asked, "Is he a secret disciple of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance?" So Ryan put his hand on the table and said that he was rather the head of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance. He recalled the words of his leader from his past life. The man had said that his goal was to destroy all who would oppose the alliance. He has no friends, no allies. Let him think of nothing. All he has to do is follow his orders unquestioningly. And even when he leaves the Alliance's walls, he must fulfill his duty. So Ryan said he'd been thinking long and hard about what to do with them. He was planning to let them fall on their own. He wanted to hand over the concubine of the head of the Steelblood Fortress without any conditions, and to see what his next move would be. I thought it would work to his advantage, but apparently there's no need for that. It's time for them to have some fun. They attacked Soryang with their military equipment, but he easily stopped them. With his bare hands, he repelled the attack of a bamboo leaf palm and a fallen plum blossom petal. So Ryan asked, "Where have you ever seen a clan leader and an elder attacking the same person at the same time? It seems they don't even care about their own principles." The young master activated the technique of mountain-tearing explosion. Thus, he pushed the old people far away from himself. The flow of his internal energy far exceeded theirs. The elders were shocked by his strength. The elder couldn't understand how he had managed it. He had repelled all their powerful attacks. So Ryan sees their techniques for the first time, but he reacts instantly after just one look. He accidentally stepped on an elder and sent him to wipe the floors. Hong Sanju used his strongest Hua clan floating fist technique, but so Ryan managed to dodge, and the old man didn't understand anything. Although they haven't fought anyone in a while, the elder is certain of one thing. The boy is holding back his inner energy and strength, and it doesn't use any specific techniques, but only reflects them. But even so, he surpasses their leader in strength, despite the fact that he has already reached the peak of his cultivation. If he had used his techniques to their full potential, there would have been nothing left of them. He is not human. The guy has a hidden power that they have never even heard of. Suddenly, Hong Sanju decided that his strength was running out, and it would be easier for him to escape. However, Soryang said that he would not let this cowardly rat escape, but it turned out that this was just a strategic maneuver. He used the 24-petal plum blossom technique. If So Ryan hadn't released his demonic energy, he would have cut him in half. Hong Sanja decided to ask the guy one last time, "Who is he?" So Ryan doesn't like such nosy people at all. Hong Sanja had never heard of a master under 30 with such extraordinary abilities. Could this be more than one life? So Ryan smiled and replied that if that were the case, he would already be dead. So the guy was blatantly lying to him when he promised to hand over the Steelblood Fortress's leader's concubine? Or was this someone's cunning plan to lure him in and kill him? The young master replied that perhaps so. Hong Sanja was angry. He was tired of the lies and wouldn't let him do whatever he wanted. His men have surrounded the place. The boy might survive, but those who arrived with him are unlikely to leave with him. So Ryan said that the clan leader shouldn't throw around such words. Looking up, he noticed the ice key. Someone wanted to cool off. Quan Sanja ordered his squad of swordsmen to capture them immediately. Hong Sanja's legs began to tremble. He assumed the guys were from the north? So Ryan said it didn't matter where they came from. They would all be finished here. Quan Sanja couldn't understand why no one was attacking. They should leave the carriage alone and grab these two. The students took out their weapons and surrounded Yosanrin and Dongpil. They were getting closer and closer. To break through the ring of armed swordsmen, they would have to fight. Yosanrin said there was no need for him to use demonic techniques here. Let him take control of the carriage. They don't have time for discussion, so they better act quickly. Dongpil opened the doors of the carriage and told Anhwa to immediately open the poison supply gate and be sure to have him activate iron armor for protection. As soon as he gives the signal, let her fire. Then he'll give another signal, after which she'll have to open the poison gate. Anhwa understood perfectly. Yosanrin felt weak. She couldn't use her ice essence skill for long. Her internal wounds hadn't yet healed. Quan Sanja noticed that the flow of icy energy was gradually weakening. It seemed the girl was already at the limit of her capabilities. The flow of icy energy was truly unimaginable. Most likely, she had used too much internal energy. This was a perfect chance to destroy her. Quan Sanza decided not to hesitate. Dongpil managed to deflect his blow with his powerful sword at the last moment. Quan Sancha's ears were steamed up. Some guard was able to repel his attack. Dongpil asked the lady if she was okay. Yosanrin had fainted before his eyes. The commander ordered the squad to activate the maximum power of the blade technique. Dongpil understood that he was not able to repel such an attack. Suddenly, a loud explosion came from the fortress, which played into Dongpil's hands. Quan Sansa turned around and went bald. Seeing this powerful explosion, he wondered if their leader was okay. Dongpil managed to grab Yosanrin and quickly dump her in the carriage. He shouted at Anhwa to open fire. Anhwa gave it her all and tickled the entire squad of swordsmen. It turns out she was a battle maid. Dongpil shouted to release the poison, and everything around was covered in green smoke. The commander ordered everyone to hold their breath and leave. So Ryan thought that Kwang Sanja had fled for fear of losing his life, but it turns out he had decided to take hostages. Hong Sanja felt really bad. He probably ate something cheap today. Ice mastery techniques? And even a wagon with a hidden weapon capable of releasing poisonous gas. Who are they anyway? So Ryan is so tired of such stupid people. Why do everyone ask so many questions before they die? Quan Sanza decided to avenge the chief and swung his sword. The blade's energy simply dissipated, and so Ryan revealed all his trump cards. He revealed demonic energy. Quan Sanza's mouth gaped as wide as Paris. Could he really be from the divine cult of the heavenly demon? So Ryan clapped his hands and said that he had guessed just in time. After these words, Kung Fu Panda came and turned off the lights in the hall. He wanted freedom, and Sodiang gave him another world. The young master asked, "Does anyone wish to avenge the elder or the head on behalf of the entire Hua clan?" So Ryan doesn't think the leader's life was of any value, just like their entire cult. What are they waiting for? Let them immediately disappear from his sight if life is dear. He thanked his hostages. They were great and played their roles perfectly. In about half an hour, they will be able to use their internal energy powers again and return home on their own. The guard said that he would definitely find him and destroy him. So Ryan replied that he could find him, but he was unlikely to kill him. There was already a whole line of people after his head. Yo Sanrin came too, and the young master asked how she was feeling. The girl replied that she was not. Was this the ice essence mastery her brother had spoken of? Yo Sunrin had said yes. Impressive? It was quite frightening. Now Sodiang had seen its limits. Her head hurt so much that she has nothing more to say. So Ryan heard she protected Dung Pil, right? It seems he's really bad at keeping secrets. Yo Sunrin became curious about what was on Sodiang's mind now. He replied that it was nothing serious. He was just defending himself, and hopes that the place where they are going is already waiting for them. The Hua clan leader is up to no good again. He's already assembled a mercenary unit stationed in the lands between Shanxi and Hubei. Naturally, he hasn't spent a penny of his own savings. He'll likely convince a couple of smaller units to join forces. The head of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance, Dam Sion, is impressed by this statement. The head of the Zhongnan clan, Sangak, believes that no one is against him spreading his influence. But he should report his plans. All the clan leaders had agreed to inform him of their intentions. It turns out he's broken that agreement and does whatever he pleases. Dam Sion said it would be worth inviting him for a cup of tea. Nothing good would come of his secretive actions. Sangak knows he has a lot on his plate already. Let him know if he needs help. Many in his clan are willing to lend him a hand. Damsayan replied that he would be grateful. Their tea party was interrupted by security with an urgent report for the chief. He reported that the head of the Hua clan, Hong Sanja, had been kidnapped. Damsen asked who dared. He replied that they were still trying to figure it out. Traces left at the scene point to an ice palace. According to the victims of the Plum Blossom Squad, the instigator of all this is the daughter of the Lord of the Ice Palace. Damsen thought she had died in captivity in the Beast's palace. It turns out she's still alive and at the peak of her cultivation. The man asked who else was there. He doubted the clan leader had gone there alone. The guard said that Quan Sanja and 50 other soldiers were from the Plum Blossom Squad. That would have been enough to take over an entire clan. And with such an escort, someone managed to kidnap him? Something is clearly wrong. Alliance informants are currently investigating the case. They also need to determine who else was involved in the kidnapping. They have received several statements. This letter is written in detail. You can take a look. A cart equipped with hidden weapons capable of releasing poisonous gas? There were 3 of them, maybe 4. Eyewitnesses report a skilled guard. Damsen thinks they were heading towards Shanxi. Regardless of their intentions, the Alliance must respond. He ordered an immediate search for them, and also let him find out who is the owner of that powerful cart. As he had said earlier, the daughter of the Lord of the Ice Palace is involved in this matter. But the carriage itself is equipped with a hidden weapon and is capable of releasing poisonous gas. Damsan couldn't even imagine what kind of cart it was, especially since there aren't many organizations in the world that could develop one like that. The girl abducted by the Beast Palace suddenly reappeared in Hubei, and not alone either, but in the company of skilled martial artists. Thanks to this, they can narrow down the suspect pool. Sangak thought it might be a divine cult. Damsen believes he's jumping to conclusions too quickly. Only traces of the icy essence were left at the scene, and he would have known by now if the divine cult of the heavenly demon had been involved. Since they're heading north, they're probably coming from the south, But where exactly? Damsen asked the man if he would like to see for himself the mercenary detachment Hong Sanjia had assembled in the area between Shanxi and Hubei. He would keep the informants in check. Sangok understands that he wants to hide what happened from the heads of the other clans and give them the opportunity to sort everything out on their own. He decided to agree and said that he could be relied upon, but he should be careful. His opponents are skilled martial artists who have defeated 50 soldiers at the peak of their cultivation and kidnapped the head of the Hua clan. Sangok replied that he needn't worry. Although the Zhongnan clan rarely interfered in such matters, if they did undertake something, they guaranteed success. He certainly wouldn't let them down. If he succeeds, he will be able to take Hong Sanji's mercenary squad for himself. Meanwhile, in the vicinity of Daokang, Hubei, Gong Yachi reported that a bigger fish had bitten. So Riang wondered what it was. The guy decided not to keep him waiting for long. This was the head of the Zhongnan clan, Sangok. So Ryan was very happy. It really was a big catch. Sangok asked if everyone was there. The guard reported that there were 70 divine blades and 10 rock-cutting blades here. Will there be elders? The man replied that the 5th and 7th elders would go with them. Sangok was surprised. Could it be that the 7th one had returned from seclusion? He said he wanted to use his power for the good of the clan. It may seem like he made a hasty decision, but the flow of his inner energy is much stronger than before. The 5th said there was practically no difference between him and the 7th now. The 5th is still trying to surpass everyone else. The Great Dragon Clan has also offered its assistance. Sangak thought their attention was focused on the Sichuan territory. The guard replied that their leader had also asked him to confirm whether he would agree to meet him for a cup of wine after the problem was resolved. They wanted to offer them long-term cooperation. Sangak never turns down a drink with a good man. It would be wonderful if they actually helped them. However, the ones who will take all the laurels for themselves will undoubtedly be them. The Zhongnan clan. Sangok asked what news there was of the kidnappers. The guard replied that they were currently in the area between Baokang and Fangxiang, in front of Mount Wudong. They needed to take action. The head of the Wudong clan would probably like to join, but he can't. They're busy with infighting within the clan. The guard was shocked by what he heard. What was this all about? The Wudang clan, unlike Shaolin, prefers to go with the flow. The current leader, however, craves power and money, and would have long ago abolished the practice of renunciation of worldly goods, if not for the elders. However, the unrivaled Hong Chang of the Wudong clan still lives. He is the foremost of blade masters, the one who shed light on the legends of the twin gods of the ancient martial arts, alongside the divine Shaolin monk, the god of the fist, and the unrivaled master Zhang Suk. Hong Chun wields such strong authority within the Wudong clan that even the clan leader himself can't ignore him. They won't be able to help them deal with the kidnappers if they're preoccupied with their internal conflict. Now that everyone's gathered and they've secured the support of the Great Dragon Clan, there's no time to waste. It's time to save Hong Sanju's ass. So Ryan said that if they set out tomorrow morning, they would reach Baokang by day. There is an excellent road from here to Shanxi, so their route will be much easier than the previous ones. Yosanrin asked if they would be stopping overnight at any inns along the way. So Riang replied that they would, but only in smaller towns. The girl remembered the Plum Blossom detachment. What happened to it? He believes they've been following their trail for a long time. Yosanrin thought that they were the strongest troop in Zhongnan territory. Someone captured their leader, and they can't even catch up with the enemy? What fools. She had imagined the ancient martial arts clans differently. Righteousness and generosity are the main qualities for which people follow the teachings of ancient martial arts. Li Zhongsan said that Dumsun bribed the heads of clans who were considered the embodiment of righteousness. The ancient martial arts clans are rotten to the core. Yo Sanrin asked if he would allow the enemy squad to follow them further. So Riang believed that soon, all the followers of the ancient martial arts would come for them. So it turns out that she already has a plan for this case. So Ryan stood up and said that to some extent, yes. Let them rest. And he wants to step away for a bit, to be in silence and meditate. He really missed his heavy sword and thought about training. However, at the moment, he couldn't use the full potential of the Heavenly Demon Blade. First, you need to fully master the Demon King's inner energy technique. You can figure out the blade later. The Demon King's internal energy is not a simple technique at all. Learning it doesn't cause any problems. The difficulty is in using it. The 9 Depths Demonic Mastery is such an unrivaled technique that it's difficult to combine with anything else. That's why it took him so long to master the Demon King's profound energy. Li Zhongsun said he imbued the blade with the Demon King's inner energy. If he feels he's reaching a dead end, He should release his own inner energy and connect it with his. It should help him. So Ryang believes that now is the time to take advantage of his help. He felt it, and it was a completely different energy. Even before creating this blade, Lee Jung-sun knew it would take him quite a while to master the Demon King's profound energy technique, and that this was all due to his mastery of the 9 depths demonic arts. His power is terrifying. If he can ever reach the same level as him, will it be possible to predict the future so quickly just by looking at the problem? He liked this meditation and raised dust with his wave of energy. It was already getting light when Dawnpil turned to the young master. The man didn't want to wake him because he was sleeping so soundly, but it was almost morning. So Ryang thanked Dawnpil for his vigilance. He had no idea when he'd fallen asleep. Dawnpil said he would prepare everything for the journey. The young master would also join him soon. Suddenly, he noticed that he had accumulated quite a bit of Demon King internal energy. He succeeded, but is it worth trying? Without thinking twice, he activated the arc-absorbing hand technique. He directed all his energy at the rock that was nearby. The guy was shocked that he didn't succeed, and he felt embarrassed. He didn't try again and shouted to Don Pili to wait for him. However, So Ryan did not take into account the fact that the effect of the blow might not be immediate. Gongyachi couldn't understand, so Ryang was planning to stay here. He asked if there was a problem with that. The boy had already warned them that the Zhongnan clan's detachment had already reached the south of Shanxi. At this rate, they would catch up with them in 2 days. And so Ryan already said that he would fight them back. What's the problem? So he wants to use the campsite as a battlefield? Firstly, the battlefield will not be here. And secondly, Dawnpil and he will destroy them all. Yosunrin is still recovering, so she shouldn't overexert herself. And Anhwa has never even participated in a battle. There's a huge difference between a direct attack and an ambush. Knowing how many there are and where they're coming from allows us to catch them off guard. Isn't it boring to just watch an apple fall from the tree? Gongyachi realized the young master was right. He was being quite cautious. After all, they were in the territory of the Righteous Heavenly Alliance. However, his concerns do not mean that they should be allowed to get away with everything. The ability to gain an advantage even while in enemy territory. Now Gongyachi understood how he had managed to climb so high. He had already dispatched 5 of his fastest messenger birds with messages to the Ice Palace while they were still traveling. They should have reached the Northern Sea by now. What about the Bloodsteel Fortress? Gongyachi replied that they had secretly dispatched an elite force to Hubei. Apparently they decided to protect the lady first, and then they will recover from him. But it will not be so easy. So Ryan noticed that the Plum Blossom squad had noticeably diminished. Gongyachi had done a good job. About a dozen soldiers follow the lady and her guard. He gave them the information just in time. According to his calculations, they were already near the Fortress of Steel Blood. The guy merely informed them of the routes they needed and the required intervals. But they decided to split up themselves. So Ryan was surprised that they figured it out on their own, even though he'd been pushing for it. But why did they make that decision? Their elder is dead, and the clan leader has been kidnapped. The concubine of the Steel Fortress's leader is also missing. They're probably just desperate. These people are characterized by pettiness and vanity. Is this really all they are capable of, Dawnpil thought? To sum it up, the Zhongnan clan people are practically on their tail. Another dozen soldiers from the Plum Blossom squad are trying to capture the concubine of the Steel Blood Fortress's leader. The fortress itself, in turn, has deployed an elite squad to rescue its young mistress. So Ryang realized that Gongyachi had arranged for them to meet. Everything was going as planned, but all this wouldn't be enough to bring them together. So Ryan asked if he was by any chance planning to kill the concubine and her guard. The young man was surprised. How did the young master know? Let him not do this. The young mistress of the fortress is a very irritating person, devoid of any ethics and incredibly arrogant. He wouldn't want to meet her again. However, she has no connection whatsoever to the world of martial arts. Gongyachi is sure that Soryang knows without him that there can be casualties in war. He replied that he knew and didn't want to appear kind at all. Soryang had killed many people, including innocent ones. He himself often faces difficult choices. In such situations, making a decision is not easy. However, he still asks to spare her life. Gongyachi said he'd try to push them apart, but without killing the young mistress. He thanked him for his understanding. But he didn't need any thanks, as he was learning to run things like So Ryang. Just don't let him think of him as some kind-hearted guy. He's always merciless towards his enemies. He replied that of course he knew. Thundercloud Blade, San Gaku, 49 years old. He became the clan leader 7 years ago. His strength is practically on par with the Hua clan leader. His techniques are also impressive. In some ways, they're not quite like him. So Liang asked Dongpil if he could handle him. He replied that he was perfectly capable. He's not just the head of a renowned clan, but also follows the path of ancient martial arts. It certainly won't be easy. Dongpil also considers himself to be no easy opponent, so Ryan is glad his guard has grown stronger. He wouldn't have said something like that before. If he turns out to be too much for you, just let him try to buy himself some time. Then he'll come to his aid. However, Dongpil was determined and confident that he would definitely succeed. In that case, it's time for them to move out. They need to stretch their legs a bit and kick some ass. The Zhongnan detachment arrived at the meeting place. They found the place very strange. The fifth elder of the clan, Chungwon, said he had a bad feeling. The seventh elder, Myung-ho, believes he has such a feeling without reason. The Divine Yin clan used to be located here. The Li Wudong clan was constantly clashing with them. Their leader and elders were then taken into custody. Hong Chong was granted the right to rule the clan. The fifth elder hopes that one day their clan will also have such a great follower. Suddenly, an earthquake struck. Didn't the seventh one say that the ground here was very unstable? Manhwa said that this was much more serious than an earthquake. Huge boulders of rock began to fall on them. The detachment almost lost its numbers for no apparent reason. In the thick of the dust, someone said that there were a lot of them. Myung-ho was already getting nervous and shouted, "Who's there? Let him show his face." So Ryan came out and replied that it wasn't clear from the way he had brought down the rock and cut off all their escape routes. He's their enemy? Of course? What kind of stupid creatures are they? Didn't they read books as kids? Seventh elder Manhwa was already spitting with anger. Did he even know who was standing in front of him? He replied, "The Zhongnan clan." Did they really think this was a spontaneous attack? He's not crazy, is he? Manhwa shouted that the guy was still a brat and ordered the squad to show him his place. So Ryan had no doubt that all four paths were blocked, and there were no more people beyond the rocks. His intuition and the information he received from the Hao clan helped him to be convinced of this. It was difficult for him to fight while trying to contain the demonic energy. Even then, on the Yangtze River, he only released a small portion. For the first time since his fight with Li Zhongsan, he will release it in full. This is a wonderful feeling. 9 depths demonic mastery technique. Jungwoon froze in place when he saw the boy using demonic skill. So Ryan decided to strike first and thus show his power.